Let's go like there. All right. Did I go live? I have no idea. Am I live? I am live. Huh. Why is my OBS all busted? So if I click the docs and then if I hit chat. Okay, there we go. I don't know if people are watching, but we're gonna have fun with this. Let's just quickly go to the Twitters. Just tell people I'm here. God, I'm really bad at this sometimes. Oh hey, new stuff. That's always fun. All right. Hi. I hope everybody's doing well. We're just gonna grab some links because I'm bad at links. And we're live. Twitch and YouTube. And grab that and that and that. Post that. Live. Come hang. We like this. Alright, let's play the game. If y'all want to hear my dog, I'm sorry. She doesn't like delivery trucks, and they're out in force today. Well, that is the plan today. We are going to learn some Angular today. It's been a minute, so we're going to hit the button because I haven't been here in forever, and I miss me some Angular. So we're going to just have to learn from scratch. The question is, do I want to start a new project and build something, or do I want to follow their tutorial and just wing it? And I think the answer is we're going to wing it today. But also we could just read through the first couple of these and see if there's anything that I totally don't remember offhand. All of that makes sense to me. All that makes sense to me. I will slow down and teach. You know what? Let's just do this. This will be fun. This will be fun if we do it this way. We can ng new as much as we want. So this is trying to teach us about templating and component styles, both of which we know how to do. So in this case, this just wants us to say hello universe, and this one just wants it to change instead of whatever color that was to this other color, purple. Yay, we did it. We revealed the answer. We got it. Woohoo. So we're just trying to figure out like how components work. So I'm going to explain because I'm a React developer. I'm going to reset. I'm a React developer. I'm thinking, how do I do this? Well, in React, just to talk about it, like we would write a function here that is my component, and this would just eventually return some DOM that we set kind of like this, and that there's our HTML. And if we needed some CSS, maybe we'd write a CSS module, import it, do inline CSS, or install Tailwind or something like that. Angular flips it on its head a little bit and says, nah, do it all inline. Do it all in the same file. So what you can do here is we have this the template, which this is just going to be HTML. So here, let's get fancy with it for a minute. Let's say I want this to be an H1. And let's say I want to just like write a paragraph that says something. So this could be our quick lorem ipsum dolor, whatever, and that'll show up here hopefully. And instead, so like that's our base style, right? But let's say we want H1s to actually be purple, and we want paragraph tags to be red. We wouldn't really do this, but for the sake of what we're doing, boom, everything works. This makes sense to us. I'm good with this. Yeah. Okay. So, uh, I'm just gonna read chat because we're on different platforms and I'm figuring out what that actually means. So the question was, Angular doesn't use JSX. The answer is correct. So I don't remember exactly how it works under the hood because it's been forever, but the idea of Angular is this template is just pure HTML that you decorate with these Angular directives. If you're familiar with, I think it's called Alpine.js. Yeah, if you're familiar with Alpine.js, it derives a lot of its concepts from the Angular ecosystem. And so in this case, it's like, okay, I need a click handler. You add a directive and then add what that directive does. And Angular does the same thing, but a little more fancily with class components and some other neat things under the hood. So like if we jump to the next lesson, this is teaching us how we can do variables and template construction and concatenation. So in our component here, we need to add a property, and I'm going to put where I live because I think that's cooler than San Francisco, but I get it. But let's just say hello city. And so what this is doing is like in JSX, just keep doing the JSX comparison because why the heck not? This is super easy. This would have been the equivalent of something like city is New Orleans, and then we return, we'll put the H1 here, even though there isn't an H1 here, but this would have been the same as our template string like this, right? This is the React equivalent to this Angular component. And that's why a lot of people like React, is because it's a lot faster to get here than it is to do it from here. I get that. I understand that preference. I always kind of disliked JSX because this isn't even actually HTML. This is just HTML lookalike stuff. Like this is, I always forget how it translates, but it's basically like React create component, and then it's like, here's an H1, and then you pass in the children, and or here are the props or values or whatever to that. So in this case, like the children here is going to be the value of like city or whatever. Like this is the translation, but JSX has made it so this is super easy, so we get a lot of compiler benefit. But with Angular, it's everything starts as HTML and you kind of decorate it with your TypeScript and all that. So we got a template property, and what's also cool about template properties in Angular, and they're trying to demonstrate this, but you can do bad things like this. So this shouldn't render. Oh, good. They changed that. That used to be possible. But this is computable. So if I did 1 plus hello console, I get my string concatenation. Oh, hello there. I've got chat people. I like this. So this is just kind of combining elements and letting us do like inline templating. I don't know how often I see people actually doing this so much as setting their variables inside of their class component. So I'm sure we're going to learn some stuff, but let's keep going because, again, it's been forever since I've played with this, and I kind of have to relearn it all. Oh, this is great. Okay, so we're going to create a new component, and in this case, we're going to reference something called a user component. Okay, so here's our user component, and what we have to do is we have to update the app template to include a reference to the user component, which uses the selector app user. Be sure to add the app component to the imports array of app component. This makes it available for the app component template. Okay, this makes sense to me. So what they've kind of provided us so far is they've made this new component for us. And the important things here is they gave us a template, which is just going to be the username is equal to whatever the username in here is. So Young Tech. This is a standalone component that's been decorated. I think in the next version, they're making this the default, so you don't have to add it, but for backwards compatibility, they've said you have to do this. We'll need to double check if that's true or not. But the other thing that's important here is the selector. So I'm going to pull up, you know what? We're going to do this real quick. We're going to set up a new project because we're going to get there eventually. What's the ng new command? Yes, I want this, but I also want to do, how do I get ng new on my command line? Because I know if I just do ng new, that's not going to work. If somebody knows, let me know. If not, I'm going to keep going with this until I find it. This is good feedback for the Angular team. Hey, how do I start a new project with Angular? Other than follow your tutorial. I don't want to compose. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to start coding. The reference? Oh, I'm so used to oh, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. I need the CLI. That is what I was looking for. Aha. Here we go. Learning Angular. Step 1, actually find the lovely, lovely, lovely command. So now I can ng new, right? Yeah. We can do that because that'll be cool. This could be the Angular stream. I don't know. We need a better name for this, but we're gonna go with it. How do I want to do style sheets? I like SCSS, so let's do SCSS. Do you want to enable server-side rendering? Yes, that's absolutely something I want. So one of my favorite things about Angular versus React is you have the CLI. And when I actually start building stuff, this will be more relevant, I think. But what's really awesome about it is with React, anytime I want a new component, I have to go write something that is that new component. So if I go here, open up my code editor, we'll see I have a pretty basic Angular project all ready to go. And yeah, check it out. We've got the app component, we've got a test file, we've got some styles, and we've got the HTML for it because it put a big HTML file for us. So if we run, I'm hoping they just put a start command. I'm assuming there's a start command. Yeah, hey, there's a start command. I love it. So now if we go load this up, it's going to load up whatever this project is. There's our stream. There's our HTML. Do I think React will ever get a CLI? No, I don't. I think it's been tried and failed. I think the closest thing we will ever get to a CLI is Redwood CLI. And because Redwood put a lot of thought and tutelage, and honestly, they're just great people, but it's because they're opinionated. And the thing with like vanilla React, it's unopinionated. You choose your own architecture. You do what you want. I think our good friends over at Remix will probably do this eventually. I don't think Vercel will ever do this for Next. I think they think it's a waste of time. Redwood did a really good job with it. They were also kind of trying to mirror what Rails does. But I think that's just like super duper amazing. But no, I don't think we'll ever get one in React. And I think that's honestly just super unfortunate and a big loss for all of us. But is what it is. That's life. Okay, so we're going to go back to the tutorial. We'll be very thankful that we have this other thing here. I know I was trying to explain something and I lost my train of thought because I had to get that installed. Oh, that's what it was. I was trying to do the React thing. And I just wanted a code editor thing. Okay, so like, we're just gonna call this React equivalent .tsx. So, okay, kind of coming back to this concept here. So I'm going to just translate this into a React component. I'm not doing it here because I don't like this editor as much. But like, this would be effectively saying we have a user component. And in this case, this user component doesn't take in any props. And it's just got, what is it? Username is equal to young tech. Cool. We can like that. Const. And then what we're going to return here eventually is, they said username is username. Now, what's cool about Angular is because it's not JSX, you don't have the requirement that it needs to be inside of a proper tag. But in, React, you do have to do that. So what this code is effectively trying to get us to do at the end of the day, so this is like our app component. Think like create React app. Hello, Emmett. It's so good to see you. So we look at our app here, like this is effectively what they're trying to get us to do is just to render our user component kind of like this. That's the exercise for my lovely React people in chat and watching. So like this is what we're trying to do. But Angular doesn't just allow this out of the box of like saying, hey, here's user component. What they've done here is they've created this thing called a selector. And that's what's going to determine what our tag is here. So instead of saying, hey, I want to render my app user, let me just call app user here and it's going to work. So like if I just try to put app user like this, you can already see this is like, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. It's just not known. And so there's this import over here where I would put the user component. Now this could come from an import, but this is now explicitly saying this component needs user component to render, and then that's how you would select it and actually get it into the to the DOM, so to speak. So now we've got all that, and this renders beautifully. Now, thing that they want us to do as well is, and I'll move this to I'll pop this out because I think this will be better, I hope. Whoa. Okay, there we go. If we come and click here, we can see we have our app group and our user. What's cool about this is we could still wrap this however we want. So like, let's say we want this to be a section because we're going to make let's say a user card out of it later. We can do that, and we can see all of a sudden if we inspect one more time, here's our app and here's our section. So it's just whatever you can do with HTML, you can just do here. And what's neat about it is the app user gets rendered as is kind of in here. And it's also, this is something I like about Angular, and I think it actually makes the debugging experience of Angular so much better, is they actually leave the component names in the DOM. So when you're trying to find it later, it's like, wait, what component did this come from? You can actually like find that. Whereas React, like we wouldn't see app user, like it wouldn't render that for us. And so I think that's just a huge benefit, and it's just a quality of life thing. So this is cool. I mean, it's an extra thing to remember because you'll have to do more with it. I'm actually like curious what happens when we get into a multi-file situation. I'm hoping the tutorial covers that in a second. Because like, do I have to do an import at the top of the file and then also import into this component? Or are all components just registered with some like component register in the Angular ecosystem that I can just import and use? I don't know yet. I think the answer is I have to import and import again. I'm okay with that. It's a little sad, but it works. Yeah, I like that too. I feel like we get the same experience in the DOM with React. You would have to do the React DevTools. Yes, absolutely. And honestly, I've never gotten the React DevTools to play nice. So like, I'm super duper sad by them, and I don't like them. So that's life. So yeah, I don't love that, but this is cool so far. Okay. Ooh, this is new. This is the new stuff. I really like this new stuff that we're about to get into. So I'll explain and we're gonna do it. So back in Angular 1.5, well, actually, heck, back in Angular 1.0, which is nothing like the Angular we know today, they introduced this idea of ngIf. And that was one of the coolest things ever. And if we go back to Alpine for a minute, because I think they do a good job of this, like they called it show. So like this example component in Alpine's world is like, here's the data for this component. If you click on this button here, it's going to open some section, this is the section that it opens. And so like that's the Alpine experience. And I think that's really neat. And they stole this pretty much verbatim from Angular 1.0 because you could do this in Angular 1.0. In Angular 2 to 16, because now we're at 17. This is new as of 17. You still had ngIf. It was still a thing. But the problem was ngIf got really complicated when you had if this, do that, else this, do that, like your if-else constructor. Really complicated. And the Angular team was like, well, those guys over on the Svelte team did something and that looked really cool. And we think we could do that and not break things. And then we got it. And this is what this is. So I'm gonna show how to do this the old way as well as the new way. But I think they're basically trying to do like a login state effectively. This is cool. I'm good with this. So what they want you to do in this exercise is, is server running? And we're going to set that to, false for starter, because I think that's actually cooler. And then inside of we can get rid of this. And then in our template here, what we want to do is, let's do this the old way. So ngIf is server running. And I'm pretty sure this is how you would write it. Or I don't know how ngIf works anymore. Maybe it's this? Nope. Wait, did I even type it as is? Yeah, no, I did that right. Oh, you know what? I think it's this. No? Angular ngIf. I knew what I meant. It is ngIf, so you would do star ngIf, or so they even complicated it. So yeah, there we go. Okay, so like Angular 1, it was this. Angular 2, it was this, or some other form of the shorthand, maybe something like this. Can't bind it. I'm doing something wrong here. Yeah, why does it not like that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is like the Angular 2 way. But now in Angular 17, which is the new version, which we like new versions, you could do this if directive. And then this could be the is server running, right? And then in here, you just put the thing, and we're currently false, right? And we all agree that makes sense because I set this to false. Now, if I change it to true all of a sudden, boom, everything works. So now we can go back to our false condition. We can put our else, and this is so much easier to read. You can write, server is offline. And now the server's offline. Now it's online. So I'm guessing the very next thing they're going to teach us is how to do a toggle for state, because that's the only thing that makes sense with an if statement. But this is cool. I like this. The syntax is so much better than what it used to be. I like this a lot more. I mean, you can kind of see like this is what the else would have looked like. You would have had to declare the else block, and then here's the else block here. Like this is where Angular started to break down for me and not be as pleasant as it is today. And I like, the quality of life. So happy about this. I don't know who to thank, but if you're on the Angular core team and you're one of the reasons this exists, you're a hero. I'm saying that now. You're a hero, because this is everything I wanted it to be and then some. How come we don't need to use letter const when declaring variables? I don't know if my stuff stayed. No, it's because it's a class, so everything's not. This isn't. Here, let's go to TypeScript. No, we want a Babel thing. Babel to JS converter. This thing. So let's look at it, and just so we understand. So here's like my component. And this is what. Why is this mad? Oh, I guess I don't need the paren. let's target something really old. I don't know why this is choosing React by default. I want to go. Where is the thing that I want to show you? Because you're asking a good question. I want to show you why that is the way it is, but it's also why is this evaluating not the way I want it to evaluate. Is this it? No? What if I took all this out? What happens? Nope. I don't like that React is the default here. I want to target common. Let's see if there's a way to turn that on real quick. That doesn't help. Okay, I'm trying to explain this by showing how this compiles. That's not working super well. But effectively, what is actually happening is this is getting converted in. So classes in JavaScript are just functions because we don't actually have classes. Classes are like a new ES thing. And so when we're adding a property here, is server running, right? And we set it to false. This is actually turning effectively into a function, and that function has an is server running equal to false being set on it. So this is what's happening under the hood. So this is just syntax sugar. This is just setting the variable onto the class. If we put const or let, then this wouldn't be bound to the class and it wouldn't be globally accessible to anything using that class. So that's the reason for it. If we were inside, because it's a thing, you could put a function. So let's write our first function, right? Like is running, right? I could write a variable with const here, or in this case, I could just return the value is server running. Like both of those would have been valid, but this is where you could start doing let and const stuff. Hopefully that answers the question. Great question. Yeah, syntax sugar. We love syntax sugar. Okay. Oh, so I was hoping to learn more about click events, but no, they're teaching us about iteration. I like iteration. We can do iteration. I'm going to be boring here though, because I don't want to write a lot of this. So we're going to create a property called users. Now we could also write this. Here's a way we could also write this, Jessica, since you asked. So here's a constant. Okay. So we're going to write that outside. And then we could actually write a constructor function and then bind users to users. Assuming I didn't butcher syntax, and I think I did in this case. Oh, yeah. You have to declare the property on it. But if you do it this way, all we're doing is effectively the shorthand of this. That's another way to look at this. So here's users, kind of like that. And my keyboard shortcuts are not going to play nice. But now you have all these users set. So now I'm going to be able to render them. So it's like, okay, well, what if I just put users in the template? And it's like, well, I got a bunch of objects here because that's what it reads. It just kind of like, this is almost a console.log effectively. So that's not very helpful for us. So in the template, what they're trying to teach us this time is how do you iterate users? And like, this is a for loop, user of users. I'm good with that. This is, I'm going to show the React version of this because I actually think that's probably worth doing right now. Because we're like, okay, how does this translate to JSX in our heads? Because this should. But as you can see, like if we do user of users and then we print user, we still just get objects, and that's super lame, and that's not what we want. So we actually have to show the property, or I think they're going to teach us later, but there's this thing called pipes that let you display more. I'm gonna have to figure out what that is, but hey, now we have names, and hey, Jessica, look, you were in the example. Have fun. You could also do fun things where it's like, okay, I need an href here, and this href actually should be the user's ID. So like if I want to go to page user/user, and we'll do that, and we'll do that. And now all of a sudden, if we look, I bound this wrong because you have to actually do, oh, no, that's not why. It's because I didn't put user.id here for starters. So it's not happy about that because I also did, what did I do wrong? I did a lot wrong here. Okay, so that's going to the wrong thing, and I think it's because if my syntax, all right, it was either this one or this one. I always forget which one's the one directional or the bidirectional. It's an empty expression, so this isn't it. And then I messed something up in here. I'm missing my lovely second curly brace. And now it's still mad because I did something else wrong. Did I actually need to do thing closure? No, I didn't. Okay, so now these work. Okay, this did work the way I wanted. I just typed it wrong 4 times. So this is cool, and let's also be real with ourselves for a moment and say, hey, we're all about accessibility and doing this correctly. So these should all be, list items. We like to be accessible and like very easy to just read this, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, here are all the things. We see the users. Everything looks great. We're really, really happy. Okay. Let's translate this to React for a minute, right? Because we keep saying let's look at everything as though it's also React. This would be the same as saying like, here's our users thing. This is not gonna like the name I chose, but it's fine. So we're gonna return a UL again just for consistency. And then in here, we would have gone, users is users, same thing. In here, we would have done user, it would have been a single curly, not a double. And then we would map this, we would take our user record, and then we would return an li with a key that is the user's ID, and then user would have just been single that, user.name, and then another li. And assuming I didn't fat finger anything, this is the equivalent React component to what's going on here. I fat fingered somewhere. But people always forget the key in React, and that's why we have that lovely ESLint warning. Angular's just like, nah, you just need to make it part of the signature. Like, that's just the thing. Well, you are worried about keys, like you do in Angular, like you do in React. Like, this key thing here is the same as this key thing here in Angular. It's the same thing. It just forces you to do it more explicitly than implicitly. Because if you didn't have that ESLint rule on, I'm sure like me, you would have just done it like this and kind of forgot about it. And this would have been bad. So, yeah, great question. So now we're kind of in our state of like, okay, we have this 4, it's a little more explicit, but now this looks like JavaScript to me a little bit more than the React one does too, but you have to know that map returns an array of objects, and then those objects have to get squished down. Whereas this is just like, yeah, I'm going to iterate over this thing and give you LIs as a result. And like, that's just going to render inside of this UL. Like, this just reads well to me, and I think very highly of this syntax. I'm like a 10 out of 10 on this so far. Okay, this is the thing I was starting to mess with because I knew it was a thing. Because, again, I haven't looked at this in 10 years. It's been less than that. But I haven't looked at this in a while. And this was just kind of cool. So this is all about property bindings. So let's just see how this says. So this lets you set properties of HTML elements, Angular components, and more. So you do the property binding to dynamically set properties and values. You can do things such as a toggle button, set image paths programmatically. So like, okay, here's a great example. So I'm just going to do the JSX equivalent of this real quick. This is the Angular way. We would have written this in React as, that's the difference. Instead of doing it on the right, we do it on the left. That's literally all we're looking at here in terms of differentiation here. And so this is just kind of like a one-way data bind. The thing that's cool about Angular is they have a way to do two-way data bind, and I think that's why that lesson's coming later. We'll get into what that is about. It's really helpful with forms. It actually makes Angular forms like the absolute best thing ever. If you have a form-heavy site, if that's what you're going to be building, don't use React. Use Angular. Angular forms are absolutely gorgeous. React's good at a lot of other things, though, and I give them credit for that. If you can't tell, and if you're watching this and you're wondering, man, why is he talking bad about React, talking wonderfully about Angular, but also knowing me and knowing that I talk a lot about React and do a lot of React in my day-to-day, it's because I'm an Angular person deep down inside. I've just been doing React because that's where my career's taken me. I love Angular. I think Angular is the absolute best, and I just, yeah. I'm twisted like that. Let me have it. See, isn't this wonderful, Jessica? You're warming up to the idea that this thing is actually kind of awesome, and you just didn't know why it was awesome until just now. And now you're like, "Ooh, this is cool." Sorry, I turned on some music. I forgot I can do that, and y'all that way I'm not just listening to my own voice the whole time. Okay, so is editable. Let's go and set that to true because that's what they're asking us to do. Good with that. That makes sense to me. And then they want this to be a content editable div. I'm guessing that is that actually a property in HTML that I didn't know about? What? That's a thing? Okay, that's cool. I had no idea that was a thing. That's just cool. And this is what I love about Angular is it just makes it like in React you have to know about these things too, and they have different names, and I think in the same way Angular does that. But like they just make it so you can just use the platform. And if the platform grows and gets better, like I didn't know this was a thing. This is awesome. I love this. So like I could just quickly turn this to true and hey, all of a sudden that's a thing. What they're trying to teach us here is you could dynamically make it editable because like let's think about it. Sometimes you want it to be editable, sometimes you don't want it to be editable, but you want to render the same element both times. So all they're saying here is, instead of this, what you could do, you could put the true there still, and this will still be fine. But if you wanted it to be attached to a variable in your thing, that's great. And now we can set this to false, and now I can't edit it all of a sudden. That's just content editable I had no idea about, and this is just going to be something I post about somewhere else. Actually, I'll just leave it open because I'm going to post about that later. I had no idea that was a thing. That's so cool. God, I love the web. I'm geeking out and nerding out over technology. Welcome to the stream. Okay, that's just cool. I love everything about that. Ooh, yay, event handlers. Now we're going to start pulling in a lot of things. Oh my God, Jessica, that could be next week. That could be 2. Yes, we should do a stream on just HTML and CSS because like, I bet you we could just like scroll through this for an hour. Hell, we could probably scroll through this for 4 hours and learn things we never knew about. I believe that's true. We will do that. That will be a stream. Clip it. Hold me to it. Okay, let's talk about event handlers because this is where we can start doing some of the things I've been wanting to do the whole time, but haven't been able to do because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So remember earlier I was maybe messing with a property like this, and I went, first off, I started here and I set it to something, and then I was like, no, maybe it's this one. And I didn't know what I was doing at the moment because I haven't done this in so long. Well, the answer is because I didn't know what I was doing, if I'm just being honest. But it's because it was this one. I was looking for the event handler. So So before we had the square straight brackets, and that was one way data binding into a component. Now we're putting parentheses around it, and this is the event binder. This is our on click. This is our in React, anything with the word on in front of it. This is that. Um, if you actually go to and we're just going to do HTML click because I just want to go look at the actual thing. If we look, this is the actual syntax for click. When you do mouse over, or actually that's a lie, on mouse over, on click are the actual behaviors, right? So React is closer to that than Angular. Angular has simplified it because all of the on events are just on, and they're just like, yeah, no, you don't need to do that. Just, you want a mouse over, cool, or you just need to click, cool, we can do that, and they give that to you. So, I love this because they're giving us this really awesome event handler. I mean, we could paste this code and just watch it run, but that's not going to be the fun thing. So what they want us to do is when we so here's the class property. Now we're binding to it, and we're just saying, okay, way to go. And what they want us to do is on the mouse over event on this section, do a thing. So, on mouse over equals, and then in this case, we called it on mouse over because we called it on mouse or over because I can't spell. But as you can see, like the left-hand side is just that they got rid of the on, and they're just like, instead of on, put your curly, or put your parentheses around it, and then it'll just be awesome. And then you have this on mouse over thing. So when I go here, it changes. And then what you could also do is on mouse leave, because we want to reset the thing. We want to toggle the behavior. So now I could do mouse leave equals on mouse leave, and assuming I didn't break anything. Yeah, this is the type of stuff that you really want to start playing with. But then this gets cool as well, because now, remember our if statement from before? Um, um, we're gonna just do, this will be our state effectively. Is visible is what we're gonna call this, okay? And we're gonna be like, joy to the world, because I can't think of something more appropriate in the moment. So we're gonna go with that. So we're just gonna have it is visible. Is visible is default false, and then in here we're gonna just do is visible is true, and we're gonna type it correctly the first time. And then we're gonna do the same thing down here, except we're gonna make it false, and then on mouse over, we got a lot more stuff. On mouse leave, on over, on leave. So now we're seeing like all of this stuff really come together all of a sudden. Like we've got our variables, we've got our if blocks. We could do a lot more with for blocks now. We've got dynamic handlers, we've got events. Like, we're cooking now. Like, this is now where I think Angular gets more powerful than React sometimes. So like, let's convert this to a React component, because I actually think that's a cool exercise. So for this one, all right, so we just have this component here, because I'm being lazy about names. We'll call it my component. And I'm gonna just grab all of this because we're gonna need something somewhere. So we're gonna render this at some point. But instead of all of this, we're also gonna have to. So now all of a sudden we have to get state, right? This is our first use state, and it's we have a message, set message, right? And then we're gonna have is visible, and then set is visible, and hopefully you see where I'm going with this. If you don't, no worries, we're having fun with it. But so now you have to do a use state and a use state, and then we have to make a function called on mouse over, which we can just set to be a React variable. And in here we have to do two things. We have to set message to the super secret message, which in our case was way to go. right? Gotta borrow things because I don't remember exactly how they did it. And then we got to set is visible to true. So we have to have this, and then we have to have its opposite event, which is on the mouse leave, right? And then we don't actually use the event there, but it's fine. And now we hide our event, and then we hide our stuff, and then all of a sudden this becomes on mouse leave, this one's on mouse over, and then in here we just call mouse over, and then this becomes doing this again on mouse leave, and we do this. So that would all work. Our message just becomes message because that's easy enough. And then for here, this would be is visible and our component. And now all of a sudden we have the equivalent React component to what we wrote in Angular. And like, let me see if I could put these side by side for a second for just like a quick-ish comparison. Like, I'm speaking for myself. Like, these are very similar in a lot of ways. Like, you're asking me about TypeScript. Yes, no. We should be worrying about TypeScript. I'm just kind of ignoring it right now. And they're kind of letting me ignore it. But you could just do this, and all of a sudden you're type safe. Like, that's all that it would take to be type safe with TypeScript all of a sudden. So we're now good. But these functions don't need it, and the way the event handlers in here would work. We had a fun conversation in Discord about this. Let's see if I can go find that exact conversation. Here, let's see if I can find this. For those that are wondering what Discord is this is the this.labs Discord. And we have a lot of fun in here. We talk about a lot of different things like concatenation. And we had a talk about types. Here we go. I knew we'd find it eventually. So yeah, I like this. I like the type on this a lot better. So let's say we wanted the event here. This would just be a mouse event. And now I could treat everything as a mouse event. Now I don't actually use the event, and it's mad at me because I didn't actually call it with the event. What did I miss? I missed something. I'm missing something in how Angular does this, and I'm not sure what it is. So I would have to figure out what's missing here, but effectively this is how you would type it in Angular. But you get the events, and you can just use the native types, whereas in React you would have to go like find the on mouse event handler type and then decorate it with what type of element you were actually applying it to. So it's just like types get way complicated way fast, but in Angular they try to keep it simple. But I mean, for me, I'm just speaking for myself, but I find this fairly legible. I think from looking at the React equivalent, I also find this fairly legible. I think where this gets more complicated is context switching in and out of what the heck is visible. Like, what is this I can't tell you the number of times I've looked at a block like this and then it's actually one of these ternaries, and I'm just like, wait, why is that a thing? And my mind just goes so that didn't work for me. But this is something that took me a while to get used to. But I think for me, and this is the thing that I like about Angular more, I don't have to worry about this. Like, I don't have to worry about the state. Now, this is the whole immutability concepts in React and like why people went on a whole immutable spree. Whereas Angular, I'm just mutating the values on top of an object. But I just I don't know. This feels natural to me. Like, the app component is a class component. Classes in general have variables that dictate the state of that variable. When those variables are changing, I don't know, I feel good about it. So I feel good about what's happening here, and I'm very much like, yeah, let's do that. This is this feels good. This feels right. All is right in the world for me. So I'm very happy with that. Um, ooh, okay. Component communication with input. This is where Angular starts to get hard for me. Um, Especially since I haven't done it in so long, but it makes sense when you start talking about it. So, um, again, I'm translating everything into React and then back to Angular, even though these are not one-to-one concepts. Um, but the input decorator here is when you're going to be taking user input from the DOM and piping it back into your component as a stateful thing. So most of the time, this would be an input component inside of a React app, right? And we could use event listeners to grab the event, grab the target, grab the value of that target, and do stuff with it. Or we could be using a library like React Hook Form and let it kind of control the input and maintain the state that we could pull out in a variable in a global way. Like this is where I think Angular starts to really shine is right here. Um, so what are they trying to get us to do? They're trying to get us to add an input property to decorate our component class, which is going to set this thing occupation. I don't know if that's actually what they're going to have us do here. But in this case, occupation is going to get this value Angular developer, which can be set in a template. So no, I totally jumped ahead on what this actually is. This is props. This is the React props concept. I thought we were going somewhere completely different with this. Names are hard. So this is an input into the component. Um, so yeah, let's just do their example real quick. So like this, like a person has a name, right? So this is just going to be name, and by default, we're just going to say it's an empty string. This is mad because I don't know what I'm doing. That's why. So this can still be a string because we're okay with that. And this will give us some type enforcement. We like type enforcement. And then in here, we could put name, and we're still very happy with what's going on in our app user here. Oh, this is fantastic. This is answering one of my earlier questions now. We actually have two different component files. So this is our user component. So our user component takes in the name. The name is a prop. And this is how you kind of define what a prop is in Angular. You take in the name, and now remember earlier when like, do you have to import an import? The answer is yes, you have to do a double import. That makes sense to me. I'm not upset by this, but I was just curious what was going on. So my name's Dustin, and that's what Angular thinks it is. So I'm a happy camper. This is pretty much, this is easy, but I think I like this because, I mean, thinking about React again, like okay, let's keep doing this because I'm enjoying doing this. So here's our user component. And, vanilla JS React, this would have just been props, right? And then props.name is what we would have grabbed. We could have been smarter and done, const name is props. We could go so far as to just say, you know what, I don't even need to do that. Just call it right here and let's just get the name. This is what I think modern React looks like. And then somebody would have to explicitly go do this at some point and type it. Or, if we stayed in vanilla JS, somebody would have to get prop types, right? I think it's what? User component dot prop types equals, and then name is prop types string. Something like this. I forget exactly how to type it, but like we have three different ways to type things in React. So like point being is props in React are just ugly, and we don't like props because you have to do prop types or TypeScript to make it at all reasonable. And like this is fine. As your props get more complicated, pull it up to a type and, user component props. And that could just be, name is string, and then you can do one of these. If you're doing, if you're doing an arrow component instead, which, that's always my recommendation, but it's actually not the new recommendation. Now you can use React's FC and pass in your component, but like FC does virtually nothing here except guarantee that the return type is going to be a React node. So like you have all this complexity with React typing, and Angular is just like, you know what? Just declare what your inputs are. They could be whatever you want and just output it. And I'm like, I'm good with that. Let's just do that. This feels good. I'm also got a bot playing right now, so I'm dancing a little bit. Also, I just realized it's getting dark. I need a lamp. All right, so inputs. Now outputs. What are outputs? Is this... Okay, when working with component, it may be required to notify other components that something has happened. Perhaps a button has been clicked, an item has been added or removed from a list, or some other important update has occurred. In the scenario, components need to communicate with parent components. Angular uses the output decorator to enable this behavior. Oh, okay. So this is where Angular and React are so different. And this is a great difference between the two. So React, if you want to tell, if you have here's your parent, here's your child. If your child needs to say, hey, something happened, and tell your parent of what that is, your child has to take like an on-click handler. And then I will see you later, Jessica. Hopefully you will enjoy the rest of the stream later. But now you have your child prop, and now you have this on-click, and this on-click is going to be some event, and maybe it mutates state or something. Like, you have to tell the child what to do from the parent. Angular, that's not true. You tell it from the child what the parent needs to know. And I love that. I think that's just absolutely incredible. So let's see the example that they want us to walk through. I think this will be a really great example. So to go from child to parent, use the output decorator on a class property and assign it a value of type event emitter. Okay, so in this case, we're going to increment count event, and we're going to emit that event. Okay, so I'm guessing this is the parent, which has arrays, which has an add item. I'm cool with this. So in here, what we're going to do is we have this output here, which will increment. Oh, I guess this is the example they gave us, where in the child component, they're eventing an event, which dictates a number, and in this other component, or in the child component, we emit the new count that the child has. Let's see what they actually try to get us to do with this example, because I'm not totally following what they were hoping to do, but that's just because they don't have the parent component. So we're gonna, in our child component, which we have open, we created the output. We're gonna go add item event. Okay, and this is going to be, if we're reading this correctly, a new event emitter. And we can give it type string, because that's what this example says we're gonna do. I'm good with that. And then what we need to do is in the add item. In the child, by adding an output property called add item, be sure to set the event emitter type to string. Okay, good. To add item method in here, this is where we are. We add the item. So we want to do turtles all the way down. We're just gonna copy the turtle, because I don't have, well, actually, let me see if I could do it my way. So we want to emit, my thing doesn't work. I was hoping it would work. Okay, there's the turtle. So now we're emitting that a new turtle has been added. So when I click add item, nothing's happening still because nothing's connected. That all makes sense to me. Happy-go-lucky. So if we update the app component template to now maybe leverage this. Oh, and here's those events that we were talking about earlier. That's how you do it. It's a $1 event. Looky there. I knew it was something. I just couldn't remember what it was. Okay, so here's the app child. So when it's clicked, we want to add item event. And this is going to add the item via an event. Okay. I know this is going to work. No, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Huh. All right. So I have to think through this a little bit more, but I think my understanding is this add item event here is the name of the output that we did. So this is like in React, this would have been the on click that we would have accepted. So kind of coming back to this is our on click. This is us defining that this is a thing and it can take a function or an event in this case and pass it back up. So far so good with that. And we're going to emit that we got a string here. And this is what's going to get passed over the event. So the event here gets passed down. We don't actually do anything with it though. And I think that, oh, okay. So this is the event object that gets called. So the event is coming from this add event. And now we're calling the add item in this component, which is now receiving that event, which is our string, and then pushing it onto our array. And so if we were to actually be cheeky about it and just do item of items track item, probably isn't going to be super happy about that, but you know what? We're gonna play with it. We need to do a UL here to make this work, and a UL here to make that work. And then I think we could just do the item like this. No, because it's double curlies in Angular, not single curlies like in React. I really am gonna have to break that habit. And now we just see that event. No, so let's say we change it to turtle 1 all the way down. We would get the 1, and if we change it to something else, it would be something else. Hi Todd, welcome to the chat. We're learning Angular today because it's been too long, and I absolutely miss Angular, and it's honestly like it feels so right. I'm just like everything feels right. I really forgot how much I missed this framework until kind of today. Ooh, I'm excited. You joined at just the perfect moment because we're talking about defer now, and this is the new feature, and I've been like really trying to understand it. This is like the best of the best in my opinion. Okay. For others watching and anybody else who picks this up later, the way I've been talking about defer to everybody is it's literally the best feature of the new release in Angular for a few reasons. Everybody tries to copy it, and I don't think anybody's done it right. And because they've got all of the like little nuances of behaviors that we hate as developers to try to deal with, figured out as a first class feature of the API. So I think about this like if you're familiar with React Query, defer is doing the is loading, error, data, like all those different states that those hooks provide you. It handles those out of the box. But then some. I also think if anybody here is familiar with our good friends over at Redwood, this is, or you just have heard me talk about Redwood 1.5 million times and know what I'm talking about. Did I just go to the wrong parts of the docs again? I went to the wrong parts about the docs again. Here we go. So like Redwood has this thing called a cell. And a cell is like all these different states that a component could have related to a query. And Angular says, you know what, we're going to give you this, but it's just going to be a clean one-line API. And that's what defer is. This is also, if you're looking at React Server components or listened to me the last time I did this is suspense, but better. So let's see. So they want us to put defer around this comments component. probably because comments are going to come from an API. And I literally, oh my God, I have this code. This is actually kind of cool. Uh, let's actually look at this code for a second because I wrote it the other day, and I think it's kind of cool to look at the React equivalent of this. Um, did I actually write it on this though? I didn't write it on this, but it's conceptually this. We have this thing that's on a page that it doesn't need to render right away, and we want to put a boundary around it to render it later. That's what this is. So conceptually, we know what this is. If you watch that stream or were with me. But effectively what this is doing is it's deferring the rendering of the comments. And that just means that it won't load right away, but it'll load when we have it. So what's also cool is they've given us this placeholder out of the box. And this is, think about it like a skeleton loader. Like you load a page and like there's that card, but the card doesn't quite load in and it's just like kind of spinning. Like you have that gray glowing block. This is that. And it just kind of does it for you for free with this new kind of defer thing. And like they have this placeholder, and this will be what holds the space. But then let's say you're actually fetching a component. You can also have a loading state, which you can do kind of like this. And it's just going to flash and we're never going to see it. But what I like is they have this minimum duration. And this is the cool part. Because one of the things that I hate trying to deal with is like, is my API going to be slow or fast right now? And what this says is, yeah, I got you. Let me show you. Let me slow it down for you out of the box. And I think you can also put it here. Yeah, so like the placeholder is the first thing that shows. When the loading state triggers, after I put a very long trigger on it, so after 10 seconds, we should see, well, we got the data because the loading finished in the background. So let's say we did this for 1 second. Yeah, so because our placeholder is just not going to hold because of our loading state, like it just loads immediately. This is cool though. Like this is great because let's say our load is like almost instantaneous, we're going to get that right away. But if our load's not instantaneous or it's just takes just a little too long, like we don't want somebody to just like see like a flash of a thing and then a flash of another thing. And I love that they built this. Oh, and this is cool too. They've added so in this case they've added events to these defers. So like a lot of the time when we think of defer, oh, I just want to defer on when things are rendered, right? But here what they're saying is no, defer on an event. So in this case it's like a viewport change. This is how they want to do it. And I think this is so cool. So like in this case, my viewport's way too small. Of course, this was the next exercise, is to actually add content to this thing right here. I was like, man, I really wish I had more. So, okay, so there's our content, right? So as we scroll down, once I hit the bottom of the page, we could see our comments are loading, and now they loaded in after 2 seconds. And that was cool because now, like, the page isn't waiting for that to render right away, and it just defers in when it's available. Now, we could also be smarter about this and just not do the viewport, because we want that to load because the user will eventually get there and we don't want them to have to wait. So if we, is that the refresh? No, but that'll work for this example. So now when we scroll down, it should like, I beat the 2 second mark, but like it was already there, or it was going to be there if I had finished actually reading and taken more than 2 seconds to get there. And I think that's just so cool. And they also like, they tell you about this. I'm just going to go open the docs because I think this is great. Like they have the error state, and like, again, this all reminds me of Redwood cells because I think Redwood got it right. But I think Angular got it even more right because like these timers and these events and everything are just so cool. Now I don't have to think about it. Like you have idle, you have viewport. I mean, just all these built-in events, and then they even they have interaction events, and I feel like they said you could write your own custom triggers too. At least I feel like I saw somebody say that. I'm going to butcher her name. She's very punny. I want to say her name's Jessica Janik, but I know that's not right, and I'm butchering her name. But I remember her kind of showing this on a recent. You know what? Let's go see. I know it was on Learn with Jason. And I just, I want to be polite. I want to get people's names right if I'm going to talk about them. It was Jessica Janik. Wow, my memory was good. Yeah, she talked about it. And you should go watch that episode because it was awesome. She's funny, and she almost made Jason rage quit his own show with just a really good pun. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's the custom. You just have this when condition, and that condition is one that you can set. So you can create your own custom deferrable views, which I think that's just such a good, neat API, and I love everything about it. All right. What's next? Optimizing images. Oh boy. Uh, I'm still hurting because I've been playing with Next.js recently, and I learned too much about their image stuff, and I'm a little tired of it. I'm gonna read this one. I'm not gonna play with it as much. I believe this is great. So they have this optimized image component that you can import, and so you just change your source code somehow to enable ng to swap out the source attribute for ng source. Okay, so this is cool. I'm not going to do it, but effectively what they're doing is there's these assets. We're just loading them in by their defaults. But something we could do instead is we could use this ng source directive instead to load the same asset, but also do some optimization on it. And I'm guessing those optimizations are image compression more than anything. I think, with SVGs being what they are, I think this is maybe a moot example. I wish this was like a huge, like, megabyte size JPEG, but I'm sure with SVGs it's important. I also, the amazing Todd Libby, who is an accessibility expert, is in the chat right now. I will let him speak to whether or not I'm doing bad right now because that's his expertise and I trust his expertise. But I'm just gonna keep going on this because I don't want to do this right now. But I like the fill. I like that these images are being resized. I like this too. Okay, so this is something I like. You have this loader concept. So small applications, sometimes you'll host your own images in your code base. That's fine. Do that. But when you start scaling out products, you're usually going to have to use some type of CMS. And when you start doing that, it becomes really handy to just not have to type out that URL every single time. And so one of the things they've done in Angular is they've given you this provider. I'm going to compare this to Next.js because I assume people who are watching me know that I talk about that. This is the same thing as the loader concept over there. And they just kind of give it to you as a provider out of the box. Super simple. And the difference is you don't have to specify the URL. It'll just prefix your image, assuming it's coming from there. And I think that's neat. And everything about this makes sense to me. I think this is great. I just don't want to work this exercise. Oh, now we're getting dangerous. This is what I was waiting for, routing. I'm especially curious because I did install, again, for anybody who was watching earlier, we do have an Angular app running that was from the ng-new. We are using server-side rendering, and I'm curious how server-side rendering works in Angular 17. So I'm really excited about this. So Angular has config-based routing. I love that. I'm personally a fan of config-based routing. I know some libraries are choosing not to do that. I think a lot of people like folder-based routing. I think you can make your code structures align to config-based routing and not have to worry about that. I understand the ease of, hey, I just put a file there and it renders, but sometimes I find some of the rules around like layouting and things way more complicated because you have to do that. So let's see what they're doing here. So we need to import routes from the Angular router. That makes sense to me. We need a router. And in here, we're going to just export routes, which has a great type. We're happy with that. I'm wondering if this is actually just a type and not actually... Yep, it's just a type. So I'm curious why they don't tell us to do it that way. That's a question. Feedback for the Angular team. Why is that not a type, and why are we actually explicitly pulling in the full module? I'm not entirely sure. Question for another day, I think. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to register the router with our application. Okay, that also kind of makes sense to me. So would that be in this file or this file? So this is our config. This is where our providers go. So this is our application configuration. I like this. So in here, what we need to do is we need to import a provide router. Okay. And this is from Angular router. And I'm guessing this is actually the functionality one this time because it looks like it's used as a function later. And then we also are going to need the routes that we defined in that other file. Now, I'm guessing it's a best practice to do that so this file doesn't get out of control, but I'm guessing you could also just inline that in this file. I remember that when Angular 2 launched, they said, you could do this or you could do that. We're going to recommend this because your file is going to get out of control over time. I want to say it was a John Papa talk I was listening to where he said it, but who knows? Okay. It's not provider routes, it's provide router. Okay. And then we get our routes. I like that. And I'm guessing if I click on this, it doesn't work. I click on that, it doesn't work because I haven't actually registered any routes yet. Or maybe I have. Wait. So I need a routes config, but I don't put anything into the config, and then I output the config. Now I'm confused. I feel like this shouldn't work. Okay, so they gave me the router outlet. It's imported. I don't have to do anything in here, but inside of this component, I do need to render the outlet, and so far this makes sense to me. And how do I think about this? I would think about this more like a who are my friends? Who are my friends that I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of my friends that use slot. I want to say Astro uses slot. I want to say Vue, introduce slot. Anybody that does slots, this is basically a slot. But it's a very specific slot. Looks like it still doesn't do anything. I'm hoping, what's the next exercise? Defining a route. Okay. All right, Angular team. I see you. I like this. Okay, so we're just getting the router working. It's working. It's configured. Everything's fine. We just haven't defined anything. I see you. I like you. Okay, so this time they're giving us some components. They gave us a home component, which tells us it's the home page. And I'm guessing there are other files in... No, there are not other files in here. Huh. I guess I'm going to have to make more files, but I don't know how. Oh, that's cool. That's neat. I'm not going to do that yet unless they tell me I need to do that. But okay, so in here, they're hiding so much code from me right now. I don't love that, but oh great, we get auto completion because we do have our type. Very happy about that. And then we're going to render a component called okay, let's just enter that and delete it because I don't want to break things. So now we have our component, and it's our home. It should just be our home component. And then I'm guessing by the same virtue, I can make another one that, if I remember, it was probably path was users or user. And our component can be user component. Let's see if that works. Homepage. Hey! Now things are starting to come together. I like that. So we have our home page and our other page, and I love that, and they just work. We got a little bit of a flash there. I'm wondering if there's a way they're going to teach us how to fix that later, or if this is just full server rendering both pages, and that's why we're getting the flash. That's something I'm curious about. Oh, I do like this, though. They say we can actually set our app homepage like this. So I'm guessing if I opened this in a different tab this would actually have our page title and we would see it up here like we do everything else. But because we're in an iframe and an iframe, we're not going to see that. That's neat. This is an easy API. I like this. Yeah, cool. That just confirmed everything I thought they were going to have us do. So you don't have to put the / I like that. God, you Angular people, you just think... Mwah. I blow you kisses because you deserve. All right, let's talk about the router link for navigation. So in the app's current state, the entire page refresh. Oh. Remember when I said that it's doing some type of server navigation thing and I wasn't loving that? Can we do something about that? Of course, the very next thing they do is they introduce this concept. So when the entire refresh, they do entire refresh. While this may not seem significant with a small app, this can have performance implications for larger apps with more content. Yes, this is everything I was thinking. Perfect. Love it. So how are we going to leverage the router link? So in our app component here, and this is where we have our main navigation component, which I'm sure somebody would refactor into their own nav component later. We can add the router link directive import into our imports, which means we also probably have to pull it in from router. So here's router link. And then we can add our very lovely friend down here. And that's going to get it available. And then I'm just going to assume we're going to just change these to be router link instead, but I could be wrong. Oh, so you don't change that. You change the hrefs to be router link. And then that, I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, I love that a lot. Oh, that's so good. Yes, this is what I was expecting. And this is cool. And I think, okay, if anybody's watching this, you're a Next.js person, you're thinking, oh, you would just use next link. Well, I hate next link. I've always hated next link. And I hate next link for about 15 different reasons that I could go into right now. But the main one is it's just an abstraction layer on top of the idea of an href on a link. And I like that Angular is like, well, hey, it can't be an href because that has a different canonical meaning on the web, and that's not how this is going to behave. So, like, if you want it to behave like a canonical href, go ahead and use an href. But actually, what we want here is we want you to use your your app router to actually link between the pages and actually use the internals of the ecosystem rather than exploring externally of the ecosystem. I love that. And I love the explicitness of it because now, like, when I'm doing a PR review and you have your link component, is it your custom next link wrapper? Is it actually an anchor tag? Is it something else? I don't know. And so that href could have 3 different meanings, and now I have to go explore for it. This is just so explicit. Oh, this is a hot take. This is a bet. I'm going to say this for the record. If you're not using Angular in 2025, you're behind. I'm saying it now. That is just so good. That is so good. Oh, I've been saying this all night so far. Forms. This is where Angular shines. This is where everything is going to be just like 10 out of 10 times better. And I'm so excited about this feature. So let's talk about it. So, we know what forms are. We don't really need to talk about that. Oh, but in Angular, there are 2 types of forms. Okay, I don't know what the difference between template-driven and reactive are, but let's just do the template-driven one first and see what ends up happening. Kudos to the Angular team. You put accessibility first. Thank you for putting all the labels. I also like that this is 4 and not HTML4. I like that all of this is just out of the box. I mean, I'm just going to copy it because I don't want to type this all out. But, like, this is just very much what I would expect to type in HTML without any frou-frou or anything around it. I love this. So good. Um, so good. All right, let's get the forms module now because what we're gonna need to do is what? Oh, data binding. Ooh, this is gonna be cool. This is where I love some things. This is where two-way data binding comes into play. I think, at least I'm hoping. This is why I fell in love with Angular originally, was two-way data binding. And if this is still true, this is where people's brains are gonna start racking a little bit. All right, so we have the Angular forms with forms module. We have now installed the forms module, so everything's good. Just took a minute to recompile. Great. All right, so now we need to add a binding to our input. So here's our input. We need to add a binding. And yep, here it is, our first NG model. I am so happy. And this just makes my soul just go, yay. Everything about it just says yay. And to explain, I think about every time I've had to do a React form. I've never found a React form I like. There's not a single library implementation where I'm like, yes, I like everything about it. There's always a problem. I think React Hook Forms is the best option we have outside of just raw HTML forms and going to the server. But we can talk about the problems of that another time. Or if somebody's actually curious, go ahead. We can go there. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the banana in the box. And I didn't make that up. It actually says it right here. There's a banana in a box. I've never seen it that way, but that's how people try to remember how ng model bindings work. So like back in Angular 1, you would have just written ng-model and you got two-way binding for free, which honestly I kind of miss. But like they've done some explicit stuff, and this is for some framework and future proofing, and I get why they've done it, and I don't blame them. So yeah, so now what's really neat about this is two-way bound. So anytime I do something in here, oh, cool. Yeah, they did it here as well. So anytime I type in here, just kidding, is Angular. Anytime it's Young Tech's favorite thing. What we saw, and this is just the best part of Angular, is this updated in real time. And what's going on here is what ng model is doing is it's binding to this variable name that is on our component, and it's saying anytime this input changes, make sure you're updating the value of this variable. That's what I'm gonna call it because I don't remember what the nomenclature is. But this variable gets updated. Class element. I'm really struggling with words now. And then up here, what we're saying is, hey, just display the value of favorite framework at any time. And so as we're updating this, we're getting the real-time updates. And it's so cool to see that. And I think this is cool. This is great. This is totally what makes Angular kind of amazing, because we can get that real-time stuff, do real-time validation and all that. So getting form control value. Now that your forms are set up with Angular, the next step is access the values from the form controls. In this activity, you'll learn how to get the value from your form input. So that makes sense to me. So like what we did earlier is we bound, and we're just gonna, for the sake of seeing it in real time and seeing that it's still working, there's our thing. That's not what it is though, because that's not what we want to display. So what they actually want to do is we want to get something called favorite frame. Oh, actually, no, they do want the favorite framework here. To display, you can use interpolation just like any other. Okay. Well, they gave us. Why are they showing this to us now? That's a little backwards. We just had this on the last example. I'm so confused. But you know what? Let's just keep going. Okay, so when you need to reference the input value in the component class, you can do so by accessing the class property this syntax. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So what they're trying to get us to do here, I mean, we can do it this way. So here's favorite framework. And again, my favorite framework is Angular. Show, we get our alert. Everything works great. I'm happy. You're happy. So yeah, I mean, I guess I explained all of this exercise during the last exercise. Great. Let's move on. Yeah, so this is just the same thing. Like ng model makes it so we have it here. It's always updated in our class component as one of the properties. We can do things with it. All right, I'm cool with that. That feels good. So when you want to manage your forms programmatically instead of relying on purely on the template, reactive forms are the answer. So in this activity, you'll learn how to set up reactive forms. Okay. So this is the other way. So the first way is I just have access to all the values at all times and I can do whatever I want with it. Okay. I see the value of that. But now this is when I want to do something programmatically with it. I'm not entirely sure what the difference is here. But we're gonna figure it out. I might need somebody to explain this to me, or we'll figure it out at some point. So we have a label. They gave us these form controls. I'm assuming this is gonna have a meaning in a minute. And what we need to do is from our friend Angular Forms, we're going to need to grab the reactive forms module and we need to import it so we have access to it. So now what we need to do is create the form group object with form controls. So reactive forms use the form control class to represent the form controls, otherwise known as inputs. Okay, that makes sense. Angular provides the form group class to serve as a grouping of form controls into helpful objects that make handling, or into a helpful object that makes handling large forms more convenient for developers. This also makes sense. I feel like I saw, I don't know why I can't remember her last name. Her first name's Bonnie. Bonnie's a wonderful human. You know what? I know she runs like NG Moms, maybe? Yeah. This is the person I'm thinking of. What is Bonnie's last name? Because she was an amazing person. That's totally Bonnie. Bonnie Brennan. Oh my God. I could think of her. I knew how to look her up. I just couldn't think of her last name. I remember Bonnie Brennan showing me this one time with Samantha. And this was probably 10 years ago. All right, so this is a profile form because that's what we're calling it. It's got a name and an email. I'm good with that. So this is going to be a new form group, which looks like we're going to need to get form controls and form groups from form. So I'm good with this. So here's form group. And then what is this going to be? So we need a name, which is going to be a new form control. And they're saying default it to a string. I have a question of whether or not we can actually get numbers and stuff involved. That's actually going to be an interesting question I want to solve by the end of this exercise. Hi Daniel. Or I'm sorry, that is not your name, Danny Gel. I apologize. Hi, yes, I sometimes work on React. I sometimes work on Angular. I sometimes play with serverless, sometimes GraphQL. I'll be pretty much... Oh, Daniel was good? Okay, cool. Sorry. But yeah, we do pretty much anything front-end web dev. Yes, React is something I do a lot of. Last time we talked about React server components for a while. Today, I put a poll out to people and they said they wanted to hear about Angular. So here we are talking about Angular. If you have a React question or something about React though, I can switch gears. That is not a problem. So yeah, but today we're hanging out on Angular. So feel free to join. Appreciate you stopping by. Okay, so where are we again? We're doing forms. We're looking at reactive forms. And now we've got this form control, which I have a feeling we're going to be hooking up here, or I guess actually the form control name is probably binding to this somehow, but to get it to work, sure enough, we have to, the logic is there. We just need to have a form group, which is our profile form. And of course that's going to bind. So now my guess is this and this are now bound together. So when I hit the submit button and everything, I would be able to look at the value in here. That's my guess. So handle update to the form. So when you want access data from the form group, it can be done by accessing the value of form group. Update the template to display the form values. So let's do that. I like this. I also like that I don't like, this is totally a React thing, but like I like that I don't have to put a fragment around this to just render it. I can just flat render it because it's all there. So okay. So if I use this profile form, I guess that's getting two-way bound somehow. And now we can look at the value. And then we could do the same with email. Profile form, value, email. Oh, I just got a spicy question. I'm gonna finish this exercise and then I'm gonna address your question because that's gonna be a conversation. Okay, cool. So we've got our data, it's bound, we see it rendering. I think that's really neat. And now we can actually do our handle submit, which in this case I'm gonna cheat and just copy it because I don't want to type all that out, but it's just alerting and it should just take the two values, put a pipe between it. I don't know why they didn't use a template string there, but that's an opinion. That's not a must-have. And then the way, okay, so we have an event handler, so we need to do the ng submit. So yep, submit, and then that could be our handle submit. So if I do test and submit it, we see test, and we're happy because that works. Okay, I'm gonna come back and do the number thing. I want to answer this question. So what is my opinion on Next.js for full stack versus Next.js for front end and SSR with separate backend, maybe Express Nest.js? I'm assuming you meant Nest on that last one, because that makes sense. Okay, what's my opinion on it? Great question. It depends on what you're building. And that's the cop-out answer. Let me see if I actually still have this in my Excalibur. Let's see. Do I still have it? It would have been in here. No, I don't have it in here. I have a graphic though. In my blog, and here it is. It's in this one. So I'm gonna just zoom in on this for a second because this is not entirely true anymore. This was true when I wrote it, but I think this is a great way of how my mental model on it works. So I start with the question of what am I building? And the answer is go for the tool that makes the most sense at the time. So when I wrote this, static content stuff and whatever, Astro was king. And honestly, Astro is still king of that, but they've gotten a lot better for other stuff. If I'm doing a marketing site with some like CTAs and other content type stuff where I need to integrate with the CMS, like for a while there, I was reaching for Next and Remix out of the box. But the actual answer is I'm reaching for Astro now. If I'm being honest, I think Next has gotten entirely too complicated for simple marketing sites. I don't think it makes sense in that space. I think they were like with the get static props and what they were doing there. Like I think they were the kings of that space. Or queens, they were the royalty. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. They were the royalty of that space, I think, for a very long time because I think they had it figured out. So now, like, okay, if they're not meant for that, if they're not meant for static content, what are they actually meant for? So this is where I get into product applications like SaaS platforms and whatnot. And before I wrote spas and I just put Angular React, and to some extent that's still true. I would still throw I would probably still throw Astro into this mix. I would definitely throw Remix and Next.js into this mix. I would also take all those and slap them to the right on a multi-page application. Now, where does my logic and breakdown at this point? Next.js, Remix, and most of the Node ecosystem are not fully featured for serious web development. And I can have a debate with people about this if they want. But in my head, Next.js is really good and Remix are really good at building these complex multi-page applications and do it really well. But they're only so good at that as long as they can fetch the data they need to behave the way they're intended to behave. The second we lose our ability to control that data, or our backend is something that we need to be doing more, that's the second you need to start bleeding and reaching for something like Express, like Nest.js. Because I think those are really full-featured backend solutions. So like, is Next.js a full stack solution? Kind of. And my kind of there is, it can connect to a database. It can have API routes. It has the ability to do those things. And I think with React server components, that's getting a little squishier. But when it comes to like complex data processing and full featured APIs, like, no, don't use Next.js. It's not built for that. That's not why you would use it. I'm a Rails guy. That's how my career started. So when I start hitting that layer of complexity with applications, my immediate reaction is go install Rails. I can get 90% of what you need out of the box done in a few hours. And if I really get to the point where I need more interactivity and I need more JavaScript, I can switch modes and get something like React installed quickly and make it happen. That's just me. I think there's some really other great tools out there. And again, it kind of depends on what your priorities are. But like, if you're in the React space and are looking for something good, these guys, Redwood, they figured it out. Like they, a big part of them though is, let me see if I can pull the code up real quick. No, I called it, yeah, this. So what's really cool about Redwood, just to pull this one up, too big, is they've kind of got this idea of you have a API and you have a web component of your project. And I think those two things combined are really powerful because they've also figured out how to solve, like, do you need a background worker? Do you need web workers? Do you need, like, what do you need? They kind of solve those problems. And I thought they did a really good job of it. So like, they have a fully featured API. They also have a fully featured web component. But where I think Redwood starts to fail is the second you need SEO performance, don't use Redwood. I love them, but I don't think they figured out the SEO problem. And I think that's where Next.js and Remix and all of those frameworks are starting to shine. Now, I know Redwood's going through a transformative stage right now where they're starting to talk about bringing in whatchamacallit. They're talking about bringing in React server components and starting to get some of that server rendering figured out. I think the second they do that, Redwood will be my hardcore recommendation for anybody doing any serious product development with React, with Node, with JavaScript. At the same time, if performance is something you care about, you shouldn't be using JavaScript in the first place. So everything, there's a lot of checkboxes there and there's a lot of buts to everything I'm saying, but ultimately for me it comes down to the idea that Next.js is a great tool. I use it at work pretty much all day every day. Do I think it is the number one tool on the market? No. Do I think it's insanely popular and probably one of the better options for React right now? Absolutely. I think Remix is equally good. And honestly, if I were trying to say, hey, I just need one of these and try to go full stack on it, I'm probably going Remix. And I'm probably going Remix mostly because Kent Dodds is the mad lad with a plan and he's got the epic stack. And I think he's solving a lot of my biggest complaints with Next.js and a lot of the kind of React ecosystem for the front end. That was very long-winded to say. Okay, so going back to your original question, what is my opinion on it? It depends. Most likely, I'm gonna say no. Next.js for a front end and SSR, totally thumbs up with that. Separate back end, totally agree with that. It depends. Get your bingo card out. I'll say that a lot. Your other question is there some drawback for having separate backend? Is it a bit slower than having all in Next.js? Situational again. So I have this open. So I have this. I'm using Shopify on this particular Next.js application because I thought that was cool. So just to kind of, here, let me shut that down and render this one because I think this will help to. Oh, great! It's a yarn project. I couldn't remember what I did. Yarn start maybe. Oh, I'm in the wrong project. So I'm gonna use this as an example just so we're talking about it. What I did use PMPM on this one. I couldn't remember. So kind of pulling this up, this doesn't look good. I was just experimenting with Next.js to see if I liked what they were doing. But like this is a Shopify template, and I'm just doing some stuff with some basic components here. My page for this homepage looks like this, and inside of it there's this featured components. I apologize, Todd. I did use Tailwind. It was just too fast because I was using V0 for everything. I'm sorry. Um, um, but I have this Shopify fetch. This is the equivalent of me having a different backend, effectively. So this is as slow as Next.js gets, and it's not even that slow. So I think it's really like if you're worried about performance, like you can fine tune a separate API to the nth degree and get all you need out of it. So I think Next.js having its own, like the fact that it does server rendering and it has its own API routes, like it's good enough. It's not going to be any faster, unless, and here's the unless, you're deploying, like let's say you deploy your Next.js app to Vercel, and then you deploy this backend, arbitrary backend that we're talking about, to an AWS cluster in a different region than where Vercel ended up putting your stuff. Yeah, you're going to see some noticeable delay there and some lag because of regionality and how fast networks are. So like that's a consideration here. I think generally speaking, though, it depends on what your backend is. Like, if your backend is a simple, like, I'm just fetching stuff out of a database real quick to put it on a page, I think you get away with Next.js on its own. If it's like this deep integration, like you're building a whole GraphQL server to surround all of your data and have this middleware because you're a microservice to the nth degree, like you should never put that in an Next.js app. That is just nonsense waiting to happen for you. That's nonsense waiting for you to happen in basically every other minus Redwood React framework that exists. And I say minus Redwood because they actually give you a GraphQL middleware injection point out of the box. So like they kind of want you to do that. So that's a great question. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, there's not really a drawback unless you're not in full control over your infrastructure and where things live. And I think you can make everything live in the same place very easily. I mean, Vercel's put out several docs on how you can containerize and Dockerize your Next.js server and put it wherever you want. And at that point, you just move to AWS and you're in full control of everything. Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. That's why I'm doing these streams. Just to share as well. Like um, I'm a manager by trade, a tech lead at times when I need to be. And I've been doing this for, I want to say, over a decade at this point. And I've been finding that with people I work with, they really have come to me to ask me questions similar to the ones you're asking right now to get opinions. And I found like, man, I'm really enjoying having these conversations with people, but I don't get enough of those conversations, and I like having those conversations. And I was like, oh, you know what would be fun? Why don't I stream, once a week? See if I can make that happen. Maybe it's once every other week, and kind of just share my knowledge with people who ask questions like the ones you're asking. And hopefully you find value in what I'm sharing, and I'm able to provide value to you in the same ways that I've been able to provide value to them. And whenever somebody doesn't come to me with questions like the ones you have, I'm hoping to just go build something cool and learn something new in the meantime. What games am I playing? I play a variety of games. I don't have them on this machine because I don't game on a Mac. But I'm my big games right now. Me and a bunch of friends are playing Valheim right now, which thoroughly enjoying. We're talking about picking up Pal World just because it looks too interesting to not be enticed by it. I'm also playing. I got the PS5 in the other room, and I'm definitely playing me some whatchamacallit, Final Fantasy, because that game was great. I just finished Spider-Man not too long ago, and that was also great. Um, so I play a lot of games. I used to be a competitive Counter-Strike player as well. Part of why I'm on Twitch. I found Twitch through all the amazing Counter-Strike players. What games are you all playing? Love to hear more. And while that's going on, I'm going to come back to this Angular example and see if I can make this other idea that I had work, because I'm very curious. We're going to see. One of the things I'm curious about is these form controls are very much bound to strings. I'm wondering if I get it to play with integers and numbers, and it worked nicely out of the box. So we're going to play that game. Form control name is going to be age. I don't like using age, but it's just an easy enough thing to put as a number. And then if we come in here, add age, new. I wonder what happens if I leave form control blank, if it gets mad at me. It doesn't get mad at me. Won't let me put letter. Ooh, very excited about that. I could put numbers. Very excited about that. Let's see what happens. Let's just console log type of this dot profile form dot value dot age, because I'm now curious. Like, I'm just curious. Did you actually give me what I wanted, please? I want what you're not giving me. Let's just put a bunch of blanks for now, just to see if we can get some nice, like, quick. Because I'm just... Oh, wait, no, I want to invert this because I'm thinking it's just not showing because it's too far down. Okay, so that's not helpful at all. Let's alert on this too, I guess. All right. Okay, and we're gonna put the number in here and the type of... Yes! That is so exciting. You can actually do this. Ooh, Witcher 3 is literally in my Steam library, never to have been played, and top of my list in terms of next solo game I play. Everybody says so many good things, and I just haven't played it. That is super exciting. That's a great list of games, though. I don't love the League toxicity, but I have a lot of friends who play the game, and I think they really enjoy it, and I think that's super important. Enjoy the games you play, and as long as you're enjoying the games you play, keep playing them. Yeah, just my 2 cents. But I'm just really excited because I'm learning that these form controls are not bound to just strings, and that means you can do cool type safety things with like booleans and whatnot. And I think that's just a really neat feature of Angular forms and reactivity. I think this is cool. This is neat, everybody. And that's more or less what I built. So that's so cool. I'm very excited. I am so excited about this. Okay. We did reactive forms, validating forms. Ooh, this is... So now this is what I'm very curious about with Angular. Like, is it even worth doing... So they start this whole lesson with template-driven things. Yeah, that... Daniel, you don't know me as well, so I'll share a little bit about my background. I started my career as a Rails developer, and then at some point, me and my team really needed some highly interactive JavaScript. This is back in 2012. Angular had just come out. This was the years of Ember. This was the years of Backbone, and we really needed something interactive. We went with Angular 1 because it actually met our needs, and that served me well into 2016. At which point, we I moved to another company. They were doing a bunch of React stuff, and I became a React developer all of a sudden. Totally fine. What I hated about React, getting into it right away, was actually the lack of form support. Like the the fact that I couldn't do nearly as much like form validation out of the box with React, and at the time, this was also like the best libraries out there for forms in React were like Formic, React Final Form, and Formsy, which were all terrible for their own reasons. I think React Final Form was maybe the best of the three, and even then, it was a terrible library. Um, then we got React Hooks Form, React Hooks. I think that's what it's called. React Hooks. This library. This is the best we have, and even then, it's still. Are their docs broken? Oh no. That's super sad. This is a great tool. I'm sorry to see their docs down. Oh, that's super sad. What happened? Oh no. Okay, well this was the best form. I don't know why it's down, but use this library. This is great, but it's just a little overly complex and verbose for my taste. I think with like Remix and Next.js moving where they're moving, they're getting closer to like just the like default form library of HTML, and then they're adding form handlers, but then they still have to break out of it when you want to start doing things like validators. And I think this is like the next thing I'm kind of curious about, like how does Angular handle validators? Like, I would like to just put required there, but is that not the thing? And I'm guessing if I do this, we can see it's not, it's ignoring, and I'm a little, is it because I don't have an ng submit? No, I don't know. But like, if you look at this, like I would expect that to give me at least an HTML error. So maybe that's a downside of Angular. It's not doing that, but I'm guessing the second I put these validators in, things are going to get real fancy in a real hurry. So let's see. So like we have, validators is what it's called. And in here, we need validators and just make it required. So if I try to do this now, don't get anything still. Works for me. I live in EU Croatia. Okay, it might just be my system thing. Thanks for confirming. I really hope they're here. Oh yeah, there we go. I guess it's something to do when I'm not in incognito mode. That's sad. But hey, this is a great library. If you're gonna do React forms and you're gonna be in SPA mode, like use this. This is the one. I also like it because it works really well in React Native. So if you're like cross building, like I think this is great. And actually, that's maybe an argument for React still. Maybe not Next.js or Remix or any of the frameworks, but you get you still get all of the amazing things like you get all the amazing React features in React Native still. And I think that's super powerful and helpful because then you can do and build and enjoy more with less. And I think that's, I don't know, I just think that's important. Okay, so we added some validators. So this is required. So I'm guessing if I go in here now and if I bind to the state disabled, and if I look at this profile form, and then I guess it's got a valid property. That's neat. And okay, now there's values, and now this is good. But that's not going to be good. Good enough, I guess. And the reason that's not going to be good enough in my head is we're going to need more validations. We're going to need to do size and all that stuff. This is fascinating to me. Why do they even teach template-driven forms anymore? It's like, here's not even okay. Here's a page on template, and then like the rest of the page is on reactive forms. I'm very curious about this. I also think, oh, okay, this is cool. I think this is nice. You just put this is like Yup or Zod. This is like Yup or Zod. You don't have to download another library for it. It just comes out of Angular. That's neat. I like that. This is cool. I'm team use this. Lot to learn there, but they're just summarizing things. But I really want to know like template driven forms or reactive forms for Angular. I'm genuinely curious, like why somebody would do one or the other. Okay, here we go. Let's see what the Angular team says about their own thing. How to keep track of state, what parts of the form are valid, properly display error. Happy with all that. Template-driven forms, AngularJS tackled forms via the infamous ng model directive. Yeah, this makes sense to me. The instantaneous two-way data binding ng model in AngularJS was a really lifesaver, and I 100% agree. This is what got me into Angular. This right here, this one sentence. So forms built with directive could only be tested in an end-to-end test because it requires the presence of a DOM, but still this mechanism was very useful and simple to understand. Still agreeing. Angular now provides an identical mechanism named also ng model that allows us to build now called template driven. So far so good. I'm understanding all this. We did all this. There's like so this requires ng form and a bunch of other things. How does ng model work? How does ng submit? Okay, so it explains there's a lot of complexity here. I like complexity, but I'm not going to read all that right now because that's not what I'm interested in. There's a lot of validation functionality. Okay, got it. So we have all these different properties. Okay. So the way this works is there's a set of implicitly defined form directives that are being applied to the view. Angular will automatically apply a form level ng form directive to the form in a transparent way. Okay, so this is all about backwards compatibility at this point. So that's why they do all this like template driven stuff. Let's get to the reactive form. Okay. In the simple template-driven example above, we cannot really see it, but keeping the template as the source of all form validation rules is something that can be pretty hard to read and maintain very quickly. As we add more and more validator tags to a field, or when we start adding complex cross-field validations, the readability and maintainability of the form decreases. This all makes sense. Might become harder to hand over the form to a web designer, for example, as the template gets more complex and full of business validation rules. The upside of this is handling a form is its initial simplicity, and it's probably enough to build a small to medium-sized forms. It's also very similar to what has been done in AngularJS with ng model. So if this is your model, yeah, cool. I agree with everything up to this point so far. Okay, what's Angular reactive forms now? Reactive form looks on the surface pretty much like a template-driven form, but in order to be able to create this type of form, we need to first import a different module into the application. Okay, and now they show us what all this is. Let's just get to the bottom where they talk about advantages and disadvantages. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. I guess they don't really talk about it. So which form type to choose? Are you migrating an AngularJS application? That is ideal scenario for template-driven forms. So if you're in legacy stuff, this is what you choose. But other than that, reactive forms are a much better choice. They are more powerful, easier to use, and encourage a better separation between view and business logic. I agree with this based off of that experience we just had. But it's possible to use both forms. Let's now quickly... Okay, great. This answered the question I had. Which one's right? And the answer is we want to use reactive forms unless we're really trying to migrate an old legacy application, at which point template-driven forms make sense. I like that. I've learned something new today. I really appreciate that. Go, Angular team. Please, please, please. I'm just going to make a request. somewhere in here, talk about that. I think it's sad that it's not in here because this is very confusing. I would have like read the first thing and just started using that and then been very upset to learn that reactive forms is actually best practice. Um, I don't know, some feedback. Uh, but that's cool. Oh, one of my favorite React or not React Angular features, injectable surfaces. Um, I miss this. This is what I used almost every day in a previous job, and I loved it because this was just like such a clear separation of concerns with things. Um, Particularly like one of the things I hated about moving into React is everything was in the file. Like your fetches, the logic, how it got munged, how it got crafted. Then we got hooks, and people started putting everything in hooks. I don't think that's the right practice either, but that's what we see. Server components are going to change it again. What I love about Angular is this concept of services because you just move all of like your complex logic out of your components into a service, and then you just use services to a kind of act as a center stage for all of your data. I know there's NGRX and other things that need to get pulled in. I'll figure that out later. But hey, great stuff. This is one of my favorites. So to make a service eligible for DI, we have to provide it somewhere. In this case, it wants us to provide it in the root. Why does it want us to put it in the root? This makes sense. This is to make it globally injectable. Why root though? Why not something? I mean, I guess this thing's so tiny we don't have another option. But it would be, I don't know. This would be interesting to learn more about. But okay, so we have this injectable, which is a decorator function, and it takes in something called provided in, and you just say state where it's going to come from. And that's going to play nice. And here we are. So now the updated code in car service by adding injectable. That's what we did. So we're injected. Configure the decorator. The values in the object passed to the decorator are considered to be the configuration for the decorator. Okay. Update injectable decorator car service to include the configuration for provided root. Use the okay. So this service is now injectable. I'm curious why provided in root works. Like, I would like that explanation. I don't know if they explain it though. Here, let's see if we look for provided in. Provided dependency. Oh, I do love this. I could just generate everything. I do love me a good CLI. So replace user with the name of your service. Yep, that works for me. So this is the user service. You can now use service anywhere in your application because it's providing it in the root. The service itself is a class that CLI generated that's decorated by default. The decorator has a provided in property, which creates a provider for the service. In this case, provided in root. So it's like the English provide the service in the root injector. Yeah, that makes sense to me. How did we know there was a root injector? Is it something to do with? Okay, here we go. Associates the dependent with the ng module or any other injector type. This option is deprecated. Oh. That's sad. Oh, no, this is just wait, no, this is deprecated. Why is this deprecated? Root is the application platform, a special singleton platform injector shared by all applications on the page. Any provides a unique instance of each lazy loaded module, while all eagerly loaded modules share one instance. This option is deprecated. I'm gonna bother an Angular friend about this. I need somebody to explain this to me. I mean, this makes sense. I'm just It's also possible to specify that a service in particular ng module if you... Okay, great. Great. So if we're doing like micro front ends and or like just separating modules out, we could just say, hey, user service shouldn't ever be called in anything outside of the user module, so it's only available in the user module. I'm okay with that. Now I feel less bad. I thought they said this was deprecated. I'm going to ignore this because they said it was deprecated and I don't want to learn deprecated patterns. Okay. So we created an injectable service. We're happy with that. Now we need to use that injectable service to do something. As part of the dependency injection system in Angular, how do you inject a service into a component? Angular has a convenient function called inject and can be used in the proper context. Okay. In this video, you'll learn how to inject a service and use it in a component. So it often happens to initialize class properties with values provided by the DI system. Here's an example. So I can inject it just calling inject my service. All right, that's how you get it in a component. So far, so good. So if I want to just get it in here, what I can do is in my car service, this is my car service, I can do an inject at the top level, which means right here, so car service, because that's what we're going to call it, is going to be, I can call it inject on my car service. And now in theory, this is an injectable service inside of my app. Now I think there's another syntax unless they changed it, but I'm going to look into that in a minute. But now what happens is my constructor, so I get an instance, great. Now it's stored in the car service property, understood. Now we can go and say our display property is going to be the car service get cars, and then in this case they want us to join on a star. I think that's silly, but that's fine. We can use ASCII. And then now in our template we could just do P is car listing, and then put in the display and get a closing P tag. I mean, this all makes sense to me so far. So we're taking our car service, which we're getting from car service here. These are the cars, calling get cars, and we're just displaying all the cars. That nothing about this is surprising, though I think there's a different syntax for this. Of course it's the next lesson. Of course it's the next lesson. I've never seen anybody actually do this, but I guess they do it just to teach you how to do it. Yeah, so in the previous activity, we learned how to provide them. The inject function is one pattern, and it is useful to know that there is another pattern for injecting resources called constructor-based dependency. You specify the resources as parameters to the constructor function of a component, and you will make those resources available to your component. In this activity, you will do this. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is do the other syntax that I actually thought existed, which in this case is you just set a private car service, and it is a car service type. And I think in here we could just do this dot display, and again we could just do car service. Instead of doing this, we could just do car service, get cars, and I'm gonna just do a join on a comma this time because I'm lazy. But that should theoretically work. Why are you mad? You're mad because I was trying to do a join in the getter. That makes a lot of sense. So you make it private, so it's a private property. That makes sense. It's called car service. Becomes a property you can use in your class. The pet car service, call it pet care, but we have a car service here. So I figured out the exercise before they gave it to me. Now this is interesting. So you passed it as the constructor, but then it's saying to actually do it as this. Does that work? Huh. Handy. So you should always use it as this. Today I learned. Thank you, Angular. I think this is preference, but you could easily go either way on here because it's the same thing. But I guess that means as well, let's look at this car service. Okay, so we'll just let's do something slightly different because I want to do something slightly different. So cars is going to be an array. Do I actually have a car type? No, it's just going to be a string array for now. I know I should be doing some other type of injection stuff, but this is fine. We're just having fun learning Angular today. So we're going to do this. We're going to get rid of the display because I don't think we need the display. And then what we can do over here is these could just be, so this could be cars. That's our heading. And then we're going to have a unordered list because that's what we can do. And again, we're going to just play with Angular concepts today because why not? So for car of cars, track car, we're going to do in here, we're going to render an li, and in this case our li is going to be the car, and then we're going to close out the li. I want to do something else. So Angular for key index. I want to know. No, it's the new one though. So I guess I gotta go to the new docs. That's gonna be one of the challenges. So I know back in the early days of Angular, there were ways to do, literally this thing I'm looking for right now. There used to be a way to just get the index of anything, and it looks like there's some other cool injectables you can get because they give those to you out of the box, but I just need index for the sake of this example. So you could just set index, and I want to do, I'm going to just make an onClick, and this onClick is going to take in an ID, which is a number. And for now, we're just going to alert on that ID, which, spoiler alert, we're cheating a little bit. So this is going to be an onClick. So we do a click. I'm trying to write React code here, but it's not React. And this can be onClick IDX. And this is mad because I did a bad somewhere. So in our example, I should have done 4 items of items, track item, let IDX equal index. And then it's mad because I didn't do a close. But I did close. I did close. Why is this mad? Let's find. Yeah, unclosed for block. Did I? Oh, ha. That might be part of the problem. Oh, that's not what I was trying to do. Hey, this is powered by StackBlitz, everybody. Today we learned. So car, that's not going to work. We know that's not going to work. All right, we really broke stuff. So let's just refresh our page because we really broke the piss out of it. And let's see if we could fix it because I'm sorry, I broke it. Cool. Cool. So if I click this, I get 0. Click this, I get 1. And the only reason I actually did this is because I want to do this.car service get car with that ID. And I want to see what happens when I alert that. I want to see if my mind is right that this should work. Hey, my mind was right. This should work. That's cool. Neat. We figured out the dependency injection. So, Angular DI, constructor, or inject. This is the next question I have today. So this was new as of Angular 14. For my use case, I prefer the inject method because I can extend other classes without using super dependency. Constructor injection expresses the dependencies of a component in a way it's immediately understandable. I don't have to browse additional code to discover injection points. To me, it's more like the primary use case that I'll be taking advantage of. I have a few areas where use inheritance, changing the base class to add new injected items, is painful. This makes sense to me. Like, you have a child component that you don't want to use. I'm just trying to make sense of this, but like I think this makes sense. Inject over the constructor pattern. And what's the benefit of it? And I think it's like, well, I don't love this explanation. I would like a better explanation. So yeah, I was so used to seeing this, but now they're saying don't do it this way. You know what? What are the odds that they talk about it? Inject. Allows dependencies before each and it. No, I don't want the. No. This is in. I don't want that one. I want the one that's about services. DI inject. Does that narrow it? Construction via the constructor of a class being associated with the DI system, such as injectable or component, and the initializer for fields. Right. Okay. Relies internally on runtime context where the current injector is available. This means that injectors can only work when code is executed in this context. In the initializer for fields such as classes, in the factory function for use factory or provider, or an injectable, in the factory where, okay, knowing when you are in an injection context will allow you to use the inject function to inject instances. But I can also use the class constructor. So like why? I mean, 8. This makes sense. I should do that. I agree with that. But, okay, so I guess these are the same. I don't think it really explains why. I'm sure it explains it somewhere. Okay, I had questions about this. We answered that question. At the application root level, using app config, ng model base, injecting, consuming. Yeah, so they show us the 2 different patterns. The most common way to inject is to declare it as a class structure. When Angular creates a new instance of a component, directive, or pipe, it determines which service or other dependencies the class needs by looking at the constructor parameters, for example, the hero list. Okay, I mean, these are virtually the same thing. Um, huh. Okay. We're going to go to Twitter with this one. Oh, how do you usually learn stocks and experimenting rate you are doing now, or videos, Udemy, your books, or just doing a project and Googling? Um, bit of the first and the last. So, when I mean, when I'm just trying to understand like the tools, I think docs are the best way to like, okay, what is there? And then I'm like, okay, I have enough. At some point, I hit enough to be like, okay, I can actually go build something now. So like, I guess I'm near the end here because I'm at the pipes. So like, I have all the basics. I'm not gonna remember most of it, but like now I have like the baseline understanding of like, oh, I need to go like pass props into a component. Okay, let me go to my let me go do the input. Oh, wait, what's the syntax for that again? Now I know what I'm looking for at the very least. So I like to start with the docs and then work my way into a real project. Um so that's my preference. I think this is totally a thing. But then I also like going through tutorials like this because now I have questions like this inject. Like why do they show me two different injects? And is there a reason for two different injects? Like they ultimately do the same thing, but there's got to be a reason one is better than the other. But I don't know what the reason is right now, and I don't know what the best practice is. But earlier, and I think this is about when you kind of came in, we were looking at forms, right? And with the forms, they showed us template driven forms initially. And I'm like, okay, cool, that makes sense. I know what this is. But I'm also like, wait a second, this looks like what I'm used to coming from Angular 1.5. So, like, okay, I get this. This makes sense. I'm following. But then they show me this reactive form, which I'm starting to play with. I'm like, ooh, this feels a lot better. Why do they teach me the other thing? And this is hard for framework people, and especially documentation creators. So like all my empathy out and all of my love for what they were able to do here, but like this is hard to get this right, and I think it takes somebody coming back to this and ask like they have to have a balance. They're striking a balance between trying to get somebody who's brand spanking new to tech and maybe this framework and get them up to speed enough to get things working, and the super seniors in the world who know what they're doing and just need to use a tech to start building something today. And they're trying to strike this balance because that's super hard. Like you can't cater to both audiences. So they put enough for everybody. But in doing so, I think they ultimately created a problem. And I think that's where I'm bothered right now with these docs is they like, okay, here's a template driven approach. But hey, by the way, you should just know about this in case you're dealing with legacy code, not because you're going to be writing these yourself. Like if you're writing a net new form, they want you to use this reactive form pattern because it's just better. Um, and I don't think I disagree with them. I just, but in the same way, like I'm curious about the inject pattern. So I mean, I'm going to my network. Okay, and I'm gonna ask them about it. Um, um, why would I use inject versus the constructor pattern? Um, trying to figure out what's considered best practice, and it was not clear from the docs. Um, Send it out to my network. See what people say. Hopefully somebody responds. We can also check Twitter for a second, see if hey, people are watching. That's super fun. I appreciate that. We'll see if somebody responds. I'm very curious. Because I think that's just important. But yeah, tutorial. I mean, my goal. I'm probably gonna do another hour and a half here because I think that's what I plan for, and I think my plan is I'm at the end of this tutorial. Let's go build something. I don't know what to build yet. If you have a recommendation or a request, let's see how fast we can build it with a new technology. I think that would be the most fun, and we could build together because I think building together is learning together, and learning together is fun. Um, oh, I'm so glad they renamed this feature. So, fun fact: Angular 1, this was called filters, and actually. Um, Shai Resnick, NG Wet. Uh, there's a great. I want to say it was yes. It's this. It's this talk. I wish I was at this talk. This is an amazing talk. But I mean, one of the problems they had in Angular way back in the day is they had three things that were the same thing: service provider and factory, which just looked at services. But the one that I want to find is I love transclusion. That joke was great. Uh, God, oh, here it is. Here it is. So he talks about filters, and I'll post this to the chat so y'all have access. But let me grab the point in time. Um, oh, are you kidding me? Are you gonna behave this way? Um, I'm learning that I'm learning something about how my chat thing is working, and I'm not liking. So we're gonna just type this out all the way so y'all have access to it. Okay, there you go. So he's making fun of the fact that they had a filter called filter originally, and I think they kept the one called filter, but now it's a pipe called filter instead of a filter called filter, and I think that's hilarious. So like what they're teaching us here, this is just display logic. Now, I think you should do a lot of this with CSS, but I also think it's cool that you can do it with the JavaScript library. So what they're really just trying to teach us here is there's something called lowercase pipe, and there's a bunch of other pipes, and they all come out of this common library, and you can make your own versions of these. Um, and these aren't necessarily needed for whatchamacallit. These aren't needed in all cases, but again, they're just trying to teach us how it works. So lowercase, we need to get the lowercase pipe actually injected, and then we added, okay, it's lowercase c. So what they're just teaching us here is like young tech was all screwed up. Now we pass it through a pipe, and hey, all of a sudden, young tech looks good. Um, and we like that. So like this is cool. This is awesome. This is what we live for. This is what we want. So that's super easy. It's actually more important, and this is where I think pipes really get powerful, is when you can't use CSS to do it. So like I think the uppercase, lowercase pipes, who cares? The date pipe, on the other hand, I think this thing is incredible. So like you're in React, right? You're in most frameworks. You need to put a date on the screen. How are you doing it? Are you getting date FNS? Are you getting I hope you're not getting moment. You're probably getting date FNS these days though. And you're doing some type of formatting function. I don't think this should ever be done on the front end in the first place because of a million other reasons that I could talk about. And actually, I think the talk of mine just recently came out. Oops, GraphQL, Dustin Goodman, this dot. I'm guessing. I thought it just came out. Did it just come out? I don't know if it just came out. I did a thing. I feel like maybe it's not out yet. Maybe it's dropping this week. But I had a thing talking about this recently. But GraphQL is my solution for fixing dates. But this is great, and I think it's cool because like decimals as well. So like I'm just gonna reveal the answer because I don't want to type it all. But like they put a number and they're like 3.2-2. So what they're saying is three numbers, then 2 decimal points. Is that what they're saying? Actually, what are they saying? In the component, use this template. What's the format? The parameter decimal type is called digits info. This information uses the format min integer digits, min fraction digit, max fraction. Oh, okay. So like if our number here was just 1, we'd get 1 0. That makes sense. I like that. That's a good filter. That's a good filter for its own reasons, and that's an amazing filter for its own reasons because currency is hard. Um, I like all that. And this was the last thing, and they're just kind of teaching you how to create your own pipe, which like your own custom formatter, like they're teaching you how to reverse strings and whatnot. This is so you don't have to mutate the underlying data to display it this way. I think that's cool. I'm not going to do that right now, just because, again, I think we got to look at it, understand what the code does, and be happy about it. Well, neat. We have relearned Angular to some degree because we did. What should we do next? I want to say we want to go and try to figure out zones. Somebody requested that I try to do zoneless Angular. I don't know if this is going to be possible with what limited knowledge we have, but maybe we can use the knowledge that we just learned to actually be able to do something. For those that don't know what zone is, because I just went through a tutorial and they didn't talk about zones once. Zone is the change detection system that Angular uses under the hood. So when you make like a global state change, that's how things are changing. Now, they're theoretically moving away from this. I don't know if that's true. I think they're trying to move towards this new signals API that they developed. But yeah, I'm just curious. Trying to see if I can even make sense of what they're sharing. So in our app, we're accessing zone, which has an inner and outer element, which is Angular or the root. And then in here, we're creating a bootstrapper. And then in here, we get a reference. I'm not totally getting all this so far. I feel like by default, it's zoneless now. I feel like it's saying you have to inject zone to get zone. Maybe I don't know enough about the change detection system at this point to actually understand it. So I think we're going to skip this because I think this is outside of what I can do at this point in time. But I appreciate that somebody shared this with me. All right. What are we going to build? I don't know. I haven't made a decision on that yet. We could try to recreate what I did in this React repo. That could be cool. That's an idea. I don't know if that's the right idea. I think I want to go that direction right now, though, because I don't want to build an API. Let's do this. All right. So for context, what we're going to build, we're going to build a Shopify front end with Angular kind of briefly, because why not? So for reference, I've got a Next.js based project. So here's my Next.js project. My Next.js project here is rendering a Shopify homepage and a few other pages because I was being lazy. But I think the big thing is like on the homepage, I put this carousel feature and I put a, I put a suspense boundary on it. I kind of want to create this because this is a good way to do defer. I'm going to try to be a good person and not use Tailwind again. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on CSS, so we're just going to have to get this right the first time. And I'm okay with that. I think that's what we're going to do. If anybody has a better idea, that's what we're going to do instead. So let us go to the CLI docs because CLI docs are Angular CLI. Angular team, we need to talk about search. I don't like the Algolia that you're using. It's not working super well for me. Good news is I can figure it all out, kind of. So that's not what we're looking for. We want to scaffold, generate, ng generate. What does this do? Is there a better ng generate example? Building Angular apps. ng build, ng generate. So I don't know how the CLI works, but I would like to use the CLI. Let's see. New route. Common routing tasks. ng, new routing app. First component, second component. I like this. These are just components. But that's not what I'm doing here. I'm creating a server-side rendered application. I don't know if this is a SPA by default though. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Okay, so we're gonna try this out. We're gonna see what happens. So we're gonna just create a couple components. We're gonna make one that I'm gonna call the homepage. Because I'm totally in the right project when I ran that. We're gonna remove that file because that was just a dummy file for kicks. Okay, so we're gonna make our first component. We're gonna call it our homepage. We're gonna make another component that we're gonna call a carousel because we're gonna need that. We're going to make another one called product card because we're going to need that. And we're just going to create another one called contact us because we're going to put a form on that page and that's going to be fun. Okay, love Angular because assuming I just did everything correctly, I've got 3 components with their CSS, their test file. I didn't do this in the tutorial because they kept the templates relatively simple. But you can actually, instead of using inline templates and styles, you can use other files like they do here. And I kind of like this a little bit more. It separates things out. I'm not creating modules here, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a mistake because there is some level of layering and hierarchy to my components. I'm going to get an opinion from somebody on that later, and we're just going to kind of go with this for now. And we're going to have like the contact and homepage be kind of these root level configurations. So I think what we do here is we have a route, which is going to have a path, and this is just going to be our root path. And our component here is going to be our, we want the homepage component from the homepage. That works pretty nicely if you ask me. And the title is our store homepage, right? And then in here, we're going to go with contact us because that's the path I want to use. And this could be the contact us component. And this is contact us. So we're going to go with that and actually run our app because we should always be running our app when we're trying to, or npm start, I think that's what I could do. Yeah, ng-serve, great. So we're going to have some stuff now. So in theory, if I run this page, ooh, very much excuse me. I apologize for that obscene noise. Okay, so we're here and we've got our config and we've got our config server and we've got our app component. Now our app component has an HTML and there's just a absolute mess of stuff in here that we could talk about. But we're not going to do that because really, I'm guessing somewhere in here is our router outlet. So we're just going to delete all this beautiful placeholder that they put for us. Not because we don't want it, but because we just don't need it right now. And then I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our header component that we built before, and we're gonna go rebuild this because I think that's the way. So I think it's gonna be fun because what we're also gonna do here effectively is we're gonna rewrite a bunch of Tailwind code into CSS and be happy about it. Now I think a good question here, and one I didn't answer as I copied and pasted this over, is should I put this in its own component or should I just build it in? And I think for the sake of what I'm doing right now, I'm going to go ahead and just do it live. I think I'm going to just do it in here because it's easier. So let's have fun with it. So we have our CSS component. And we're going to have a few things that we need to do. So first off is we have our header. And our header is going to use a bunch of things here. So, how does Tailwind translate? These are good questions that I don't remember off the top of my head. So we're going to borrow their docs because I don't remember exactly how their number system works. But we have an H16, and that translates to 4 rem. And we're good with 4 rem. That works. And then we're going to display with a flex. We said item center, so align items is going to be center. Justify items, I believe, is going to be between, which is not right. So it's not. What was it? It was justify between. I'm really good at this sometimes. Yeah, justify between, which is justify content space between. I could have figured that out. Okay. And then if I'm remembering correctly, 4 is... Here, let's just go to padding for a second. Padding is... So 1 rem, or P1 is 0.25, so it looks like everything's it's not quarters, so that's good to know. So 4 is actually just a rem, so I can work with that. So padding is going to be 1 rem, and then I'll just need to remember on medium media query, go to whatever 6 is, and I said 6 was 1.5. So that's a to do, and we'll sort through that later. And now we need a border bottom, so border bottom 1px solid black. We're just gonna keep it simple. Does that actually work? We're gonna find out. We don't need this stuff anymore. I'm not using Alpine. I'm not using that. That was something I want to share with somebody later. We looked at this. We looked at that. All right, let's come back. Why are you sad? CSS, border, borders. What happens if I just want a unidirectional border? Do I have to do it that way? That's annoying. How do I do bottom? Is there a way to do bottom, border bottom? Yeah, that is a thing. Border bottom. Okay, this, that's why it's mad. Haha. Sometimes you just gotta do the things. So this is just gonna be mad because I'm doing a lot of things bad. And we're going to fix that because we can. So this is going to be an href that we haven't fixed yet. And this is going to have, we're going to call this the Angular Shopify app because that's what we're building. And it doesn't have a class name because we didn't need one. So we're happy. And then this shopping bag thing, we're just going to get rid of for now. And this is effectively just going to be where we put stuff. So everywhere the word link is, we're just going to replace it with an anchor and an href. That's not totally true, but that's how we're going to play this right now. This is actually going to go and become a router link. I think that's what it was called. And we're going to have to fix all this CSS at some point. So let's just kill a couple lines real quick. See if this renders. And hey, looky there. That's not too far from the damn truth. And we're happy about that. More to come, more to do, but one step at a time. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I did miss all of these classes that I wanted to put on this. So we're gonna call this logo. And oh, this is something else I like. It's actually class in Angular. It's not class name, and that makes me happy. So we're gonna go for what I call the logo, and this is going to be copy paste from here. This is font weight, and I believe semi-bold is 600. No, it's 5. It's 5 or 600. I don't remember. And then I don't know the gap property. So let's go learn from Tailwind what the gap property is actually doing and then go be better. So gap is actually just gap, and gap 2, for all those watching, is half a rem. We're okay with all that. Not the end of the world. So if we come back to our friend and we see that it didn't really change. Why did it not change? I wonder if I can get rid of the span? Very curious why that didn't actually impact that element there. I understand why the rest of it's not quite working. Let's just go ahead and span, and then let's put the font weight to 600 maybe. Huh. Does it actually have that property and I just am not using a supported font? Because I'm okay with that if that's the answer. So here's our header, here's our ref, here's our thing. Why? Oh, okay, here's our header. And class is logo. Do I need to put class logo here? No, that's not right. Because this should be fine. Do I just actually need to hit the save button when I do something and pretend like I didn't? Oh, okay. So 600 doesn't actually, it might actually have been 600. And today we learned. I also don't have all of the resets of our good friend Tailwind, but I don't want its resets. So we're going to be satisfied with what we got. So we're happy with this. We're very happy with this. Okay, let's do our next element that we need to style here. So we have our nav, which is hidden on small. So it's display hidden is our default. We're gonna have to do media queries now. And then our gap is going to be 6, which is, again, translating 1.5 rem. And we'll get to the media query in a minute. I'm gonna hide that though, because that's just gonna It's honestly going to be more annoying because I'm not building for that size right now. But now we're starting to see what we actually wanted to see here. And this is great. This is what we want. So if we play with this now, this has a bunch of anchors in it. And these anchors are going to be font size small, which I think is like 0.825 rem or something like that. Let's see, font size is small is 875. That was close. And then on hover, okay, so text decoration is none by default, and then on hover, text decoration is underline. So with that change, boom, things are kind of working. I don't know why that one's black, but the rest of them are blue, but I'm happy with that. So this is a good start. This is a really good start. All right, and then this other guy, items gap 2. That looks familiar. That's this guy. Kind of. Wait, no. Flex, that's this. So rather than putting a thing like that, we're just going to do we're going to make a generic container. And we're going to move all of this into that to make it a little easier on us. We'll get rid of the weight though. So our logo can become a container, and our logo can become a container, and then this guy can also become a container and have the same properties. We're sharing CSS. We're happy people. And then this has a cart for the screen. Oh, I see what's going on here. I'm not going to bother making this button component for now. This is very much a React thing that I'm just choosing not to want to mess with today. I'm absolutely okay with this not being anything other than what I just made it. Now the question I have is, why is this not full width? Because that's my biggest complaint now. It's like, hey, I told you to go space between on a flexbox, and it's because it's not justify, it's justify content. Haha. And this is why you should learn CSS and not Tailwind. It's one of many reasons you should learn CSS and not Tailwind. Cool. So we can see our routing doesn't really work, but we have a component and we're not completely disappointed in what we built. We can be mostly disappointed, but that's a problem for later. So our router is configured so we have these routes. We're happy with that. And then if we go to our component, we have a router outlet, and we're happy about that. And we're just going to, I called it Angular Stream because I didn't have a better name earlier, but Angular Shopify is what we're going to call it now. Now here's the question. Well, A, we're not actually using that, so we can actually delete it. But why is our router not working? So we imported the outlet. We set up our routes. And I probably messed something up. So let's go back to this. Let's go find the router again, because I'm sure I messed something up. I almost have a guarantee that it's me. So if we go into our app component, we need to import the router link into where we're using it. So in this case, in our homepage, I guess, we're trying to get router link, and router link gives us the router link component. Oh, except that this isn't the component that needs it. It's this component that needs it, because this is where I put our top level navigation. So now when I click on contact us, it works. And if I click on these, they are just going back to our root level. Yay! Now we have a page. I'm happy. Let's go. Hello, Anthony. Welcome to the stream. We're trying to build a Shopify store with Angular after having learned it in the last couple hours. Welcome to the party. All right. So what are we doing? So we just got our router to work. We're very happy about our... Yeah, we're doing Angular today. I did a poll on Twitter. Am I just being bad and like baiting y'all? I'm sorry. I don't mean to bait people. That's not my intention. I'm totally baiting y'all. For what it's worth, I do more than Angular. I usually do React. My whole last stream was on React server components, and I did a whole thing on that. But I am sorry, and I will apologize. That being said, if there's React things you want to talk about, let's do that, and let's actually figure that out. In the meantime, I'm gonna go fix those tags so I don't be a rude person again, because that wasn't nice of me, and I apologize. So thank you for being honest with me. I just need to figure out where my channel tags are, and I will take care of that. Anybody know where those are? I know I set them at one point, and then I had to change them. Stream manager. Thank you. Thank you. And I apologize for the I apologize. That's right. Today's stream is not about these things. I am sorry. But we are doing Shopify. We are doing Angular. And we are talking mentorship today. So these are things we are totally doing. But hey, if you have any like React questions that I am not answering for you, let me know, and we can talk React for a little bit. I'm easy to switch over. Kind of, for what it's worth, here's a lot of React for you. We have a whole React app open on the other screen, so like very easy for us to kind of play around. Oh, you know nothing about JavaScript? Well, welcome. JavaScript's a lot of fun, and also not. Yeah, come enjoy the stream. Come watch us build together. I'll try to walk through all of my thinking as I do things. If you have any specific questions, I'm always happy to answer those, and let's have a good time together. So yeah, welcome. All right, so we just got our router working. We're very happy about our router working because we can see there's our home page, here's our contact us page, and we got routing. We're happy. Now we can go and choose to either go build our contact us form, because I think that would be cool. And that's kind of what I did before here. Or we can go build the product carousel on the home page and do that instead. I think the form would be cool because we just learned reactive forms like an hour ago at this point, and it'd be cool to actually implement them in practice. So I think that's the direction I'm going. Oh man, C, Rust, and Assembly, you are intense, and I love everything about who you are as a person, and I don't know you. All of those things are enormously fascinating to me. I don't do that type of development. Like I did a little bit of C in college. I've did a little assembly in college, and I said, I never want to do that professionally, but anybody who could do that, I just have an enormous respect for. It sounds super crappy. Like, I would never want to build that. At the same time, that's super awesome that you were able to do it. And I think that's a feat of itself, and just speaks to just like how insane of a good developer you are. Because honestly, if anybody's never like watched assembly or messed with assembly before, you have no idea how hard it is to be good at that. I am going to open that because I just want to see like just how terrible this probably was for you to build. Oh my God. At least you have so which assembly language is this? Is this actually does it say? No, it doesn't. Oh, right here. So you're reading, oh God, x86. Ooh, I'm gonna hurt my brain trying to read this, but I mean, this is as high level assembly as you can get, and it's still super low level. I mean, at least you're not messing with God. So my original experience was with ARM and with oh God, what was it? Spark? No, it's not Spark. It might have been Spark. Um, those were my first assembly, like super like basic registry only languages. Um, this is infinitely more enjoyable to read, but also I have no idea what some of this is doing, but I can just guess. This is nuts. You are nuts. I am in awe that you were able to pull this off. Uh just I'm gonna applaud you because you have earned it. This is gas. Very very impressed. Um, welcome to high level programming languages. We cheat and our code's a lot slower. Um, but it works, and that's what we're shooting for today. Um, okay, so we're gonna go build this component over in Angular World now because I think this would be an easy one to do, and it would be a lot of fun for us to kind of see what's going on. So I'm gonna just paste all of this, and we're gonna steal the stuff we know we need. Open up our other component over here, our other component file. We're gonna paste all this stuff down here, knowing that we're gonna use it, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. Um, so, um, so what we've got now is I've just taken some React JSX nonsense and pasted it into an Angular component because why not? Let's just use the same underlying HTML. Now, this isn't going to be super great because there's certain things that aren't going to work. But pardon, hold on one second. I need to ask my fiance what she's on about. I'm gonna mute real quick. All right, sorry about that. Find yourself a wonderful human to which you want to attach yourself who got home from a long day, said, you know what? I don't want to cook. You're not cooking. I'm gonna go get us Popeyes, and just I win. I win. I win because she is awesome. And I love her. Okay, so we've got this form on the right, or sorry, form on the left. We've got this component on the right, and we want to kind of tie it all up and make it work. That's our goal here. So, looking at it, we need to get some form controls going. So we just learned about, I mean, this is going to look horrendous, but I can show only custom and foreign elements, but oh, okay. So, fun fact if anybody's curious why that's yelling at me. Text area by the HTML standard requires is not able to be a self-closing tag, but in JSX, you can make it self-closing. So I've learned a really bad, horrendous, non-HTML approved pattern that I've just been doing for way too long at this point. So welcome to life. Now we got our form rendering, and we're very happy. Um, okay, so we've got the stuff. What's the next thing we need to do? Okay, we need to get this form under control, both literally and figuratively. So how do we get a form under control? We go look up the docs because we already forgot how to do it, even though we learned it like 20 minutes ago. And that's okay. It doesn't stick until you do this almost every day, and then finally when you do it every day, it starts to make sense. Okay, so we need this reactive forms module, and we're gonna have to import it into this component, and this makes sense because that is where we're actually gonna use it. So reactive forms, we're here, we're good, everything's working, very happy about it. Now what we're gonna do, let's figure out what we're gonna do next. So we have our beautiful reactive form bit. It's installed, and now we can create our form group inside of our component itself, which needs the form group and form control, which we can grab. And this isn't too bad. I think we can actually get this running relatively quickly. So this is the contact us form. That's what we're going to call it because that's what it is. And then what are we capturing out of this email? We get the email. We get a message. Let's go ahead and put a name. I didn't do this in my other demo because I was being a bad person and just trying to do it quickly. But honestly, I kind of need to know what your name is so I can talk to you and, you know, address you by your name. So this feels fine. This feels smart. So these could be name. So we've got name, email, and a message. So that means we need one more form control here. And this could be the message, and that's the form control. And in here, what am I missing? So I also need to do some binding, and that's how you do the binding. So form control, I don't need this, and I don't want that. So in here, we're going to do profile form, and this doesn't know what that is because Angular has really cool IntelliSense and can tell me that even though I'm in a different file, what variables are accessible between the two. I like that. That's neat. I'm just going to fanboy over Angular all over again. Now, the other thing we need is the form control name, and I was very happy because Angular, I love how they had an accessible example and then they got rid of the accessible example. That kind of upsets me, but it's okay. So what we're going to do is everywhere we see name equal, space name equal. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to replace that with this form control name. And then we're going to go back to our example and can't bind to form group because it's not a known property of form on line 5. That is a form group, and that is a form group. What am I missing? I'm missing something. What are we missing, y'all? We are missing, if we reveal our answer one more time, you get a form group there. That's all good. Reactive control, reactive form group, it all comes from Angular forms. So that's all coming from the same place. We're happy about that. That's what we want. That's what we want. Everything's good. Did I just forget to hit save again? I just forgot to hit save again. I really need autosave working. We're not going to turn that on right now, though. Okay, so now we got our form controls. Hey, winner, winner, chicken dinner. And then we're going to just be good, change this back to an actual button rather than that chaos that was ensuing. We're going to see, oh, great, our labels work. We didn't break our labels. We're very happy about that. We have everything working. It just looks awful. That's because I didn't install Tailwind, and I'm not going to install Tailwind, but I'm going to convert all of this at some point. Or I could just install Tailwind because it's going to be more interesting than watching me try to write arbitrary CSS for an hour. Let's see if there's a quick, like, 1-2. Yeah, we're just going to do it. I'm a bad person, but it's just so much faster considering I have all the things already. Do I feel bad? Yes. Can you make me feel worse? No. Can somebody in here probably roast the crap out of me for doing this? Absolutely. I'm not gonna feel bad about it because I want to move quickly, and you just can't change my mind about it. All right. So if we go back to our ng start here, I'm guessing most of this will probably look less terrible all of a sudden. All right. So it does look less terrible, and at the same time it looks worse. Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just not. That looked terrible. We're not going to accept that. That was not an acceptable answer. I forget how bad the Tailwind overrides are. Okay, so we have all this, we have our form. Now we need to combine it, do some validation, and make it work. Easy enough, right? I think one thing I will do is I will set it to class everywhere, because that's... Oh, you know what? It's probably fine if I... That's why it was so bad, is because I didn't have class name everywhere. I don't know why this is so bad. I don't want to know why this is so bad right now, but we're just gonna deal with it. That's okay. We're allowed to dislike what's going on. Okay, so we've given up on trying to make things look nice. We're just trying to get the functionality working the way we want. So at this point, what did I do in the other example? So I had the contact us, and what did I do? I did some validation, did the validation, and I was going to do a mutate, and I decided not to do that, but I think it's fair for us to do validators here. So let's do that, because I think that would be a good use of time. So there's this thing called validators, and it has a bunch. So required validators, min length, I think it just takes a number. And this whole thing's angry because it's an array, I think. So if I do this, I have no idea if the form is valid or not. So this is the next thing. So let's do a disabled state, because we can bind this to the contact us form valid property, I believe. And then I'm going to need to put some class on this. So we're just going to do disabled. Opacity is 30. Oh, cool. Okay. Yay. So now we have something that works. Now it's... Why is this not... Why is this disabled still? That's my question. Why is this disabled? Validators were... So form control takes in a value. Cool. Validators are options, which are... Let's go read more about validators, because something ain't right. Angular forms documentation. So we're going to do validator functions. So in here, if I want to do that, validator required min length is 1. Yeah, that's what I did here. That worked great. And the other ones weren't required. So why are... Something is strange there. I don't understand why that's happening. It says I should be able to... Oh, disable if it's valid. Okay. You want to know what the bug was? It's very simple. I disabled if the form was valid, meaning you could never send a message to me if the form was valid. Now, when I do it, we're happy. Everything's good. Its min length is 1. And you might be asking, wait, why did you only accept a single letter for the name? I actually have a friend whose name is A. And he spells it as A. So, what do? We put the name as a single letter because I don't want to be rude to people. That being said, you can't leave it blank. So, I mean, is this effectively the same thing as just saying this field is required? Absolutely. But I'm being a little more specific than that. Okay, so let's do required again. And then I saw that there was an email validator. So if I have a valid name, now let's just say, hey, my name is Dustin. Okay. Is it Dustin at .com? Is it a.com? Hey, cool, Dustin at a.com. That'll work. We're happy with that. And then we'll do one more, which is validators required and validators. And let's do min length on this one of, let's say 10 characters. Sucks for testing, but honestly, like, that's what I mean. It's effectively a hello world message. What are we doing right now? We are working on our form here. Oh, hello world is 10 letters. That makes sense. So we're building a contact us form. We're adding validations. We're trying to build a form with validation. Going back to comparing to our React form that we were building the other stream, which is why I had the React tags on. Apologies. What we had here is we had a form and we were seeing how server action worked. And we were doing our little server action. We were parsing things, doing validation and whatnot. And what we effectively learned in the last stream as well when I did this is, as cool as this is, React isn't good for this because I still have to go back and somehow make this form handle the fact that this server is possibly returning errors and figuring out how to return those errors in a way that makes this like a reconcilable piece of form and usable. Like, you're a user, right? You're filling in a form. You want it to say when something is wrong. Turns out React's really bad at that. Angular, on the other hand, what we're learning is has a lot of really cool validation built into it. And I think the next thing we're gonna kind of look at right here, and this is the part that I really wanted to look at, is all of this if stuff that it's got. So we're gonna look at this now. So this is, we're looking at it over here, but we're actually gonna play with it on the left over here. Because I'm now really curious, like, how I can play this in a way that's, oh man, you're rough. React isn't bad. It's just not good at certain things. I develop in React most of the day, so I'm not gonna say React is bad. I think Dan and his team have put a lot of, and when I say his team, I think Dan and the React team. It's not his team. He's just the face of it. But I think they put a lot. They put a lot of thought and tutelage into it, and I think it is very good at helping us build UIs that are reactive. But I do think there comes a lot of problems with it in areas that I think a lot of us really want it to be good, and it's just not there yet. And I think it's getting there. I'm gonna have to strongly disagree with you there. I don't think it's bad at everything. I think it's just there's certain things that they've chosen not to try to solve as a team, and that's their choice. Like, they chose not to put forms into the library. That's fine. That's their choice. It impacts the rest of us and our ability to use it, and that kind of sucks. But that's life. So I don't know. I'm not going to agree with you, but it's okay. We don't have to agree. That's kind of part of the point of being developers, is we're allowed to disagree on things. Well, I think you also, I mean, I'm not going to say you're not entitled to your opinion, but I don't know, like maybe write a little more React and JavaScript before judging a language. That's your choice though. Like I can't ask you or force you to do anything. Um, so yeah. Um, okay. So whoa, why did it do? Oh, I should put a thing around this. And then it won't do weird formatting things on me. Okay. So we have our if statement. Are we valid? And now it's mad because of this. So how did they get this to work? Aha! I was wondering how this worked. That's neat. I appreciate this now. So I can get the value out of this thing whenever I want by binding it to a variable. Life cycle. That's a good one. I'll take that. It is overpriced. Inflation sucks. I'm just gonna agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. Life is an expensive box of chocolates. Okay, so we can actually get the value off of our form here if we do something like this. So now we have this lovely little getter, which is a contact us form, and it gets the name property off of that. And now this is really upset because of something, and I'm not sure what that something is yet. Is it because I'm not able to just do this way, and it really does have to go in a init? So I can use built-in validators, yes. To update the actor form to be reactive, use some of the built-in validators, this time in function form as the following example. So this goes and grabs my form from the form group, which we see here. We're happy. We get name, which that's what I've done here. And this should just return the name. And this is now upset because of what? Because this returns an abstract control string null. Okay. Do I need to put stupid question marks here? So I hate that. That's bad. That I'm less happy about. I also did this on like the one field that will never be true. So let's go to 3 just so we can get. Hey, there we go. Now we see our error on this field. Huh. Put 3, put 2. Great. I don't think I want the touch condition. I think it's a bad user experience. It's only. I'm gonna need to figure out this condition. So we don't wanna just like as you're typing show stuff. I think that's bad. It's really what we want is on the state where I have left, and I think it's. And this is where I don't know if we have that property totally figured out, but I think there's something about being focused and validators. These are validators. Like, I like all of this stuff. This is cool. This is handy. There are easy ways to display this stuff. I don't mind what I'm seeing. I also understand why we did this getter. This makes it a lot simpler than me having to type contact us form dirty or contact us form value name every time. So I appreciate this helper function here. How can I get the thing I'm looking for? It's not. Oh, you know what it is? I'm probably just in a weird state. So, if it's touched and invalid, and in our case, I just need to do a hard refresh. So if I do AB, we're good, but the second I leave, we're good. Okay, I'm much happier now. As I leave the thing, it's telling me I'm in an error state, and now I can do a lot more cool things. I'm using the word state, but I'm the state of the component, state of the value. What's the variable currently? Or like us. I mean, my state of mind's pretty good right now, if I'm being honest. Um, but yeah, I think this is interesting. So we can do a lot of this validation over here. Um, ooh, no, we don't like the state of Alabama. Um, Not where I'm from, at least. I'm in Louisiana. We're also very, very terrible. So I'm not going to pretend like anything's good about Louisiana. But I live in New Orleans, and it's Mardi Gras right now, and Mardi Gras is dope. So, take your pick. Um, okay. So I've effectively redone everything that was related to this form, except for the capturing the submit event. So I think I could do an ng submit. I didn't mean to take class off of that. And this could just be on our handle submit or something. Also, this is crazy stuff. Getter, form group, class, public static void. Oh wait, the last one. yeah, that last one is very much Java. No, the rest of this is just very much like, how do I put it? It's very it's it's class-based JavaScript, which is not, honestly, it's kind of good, kind of bad. It just depends on how you're using it. But like, all of these are just abstractions around these concepts that they're trying to introduce to us. So like, we have this form group, and all a form group is a way to say, hey, the following are going to be properties on this form that we might need to do operations on. And then they give us the control, which again gives us the control over the thing. I mean, this is a getter function. I mean, that's very much a concept from, I would say, every single object-oriented programming language that I've ever worked in. I think the way JavaScript does it isn't, I don't know. I could take it or leave it. I'm not gonna sit here and say, yeah, it's the best thing since sliced bread. But hey, it works, and I think ultimately, if it works, I'm happy. If it didn't work, on the other hand, I'd be a very unhappy person. Okay, so I knew I was doing some things wrong. So the handle submit just does it, and then in here, and I'm just kind of revealing the answer again. Okay, so from here, now I can actually work on this form. Yeah, I guess the closest thing to what you've done would be structs. And even then, you don't do this type of stuff with structs. So I guess to your point, yeah, absolutely not what you're working on. That's for sure. Okay, so if we do that, we're gonna be sad because that should have worked. Why didn't that work? So we have our handle submit, and we're sad because somebody didn't hit save for like the umpteenth time today. That's gonna just be the bane of my existence, and we're just gonna move on. Well, that's gross. I don't want to read that. So I wonder if there's a really handy function, because why wouldn't there be a handy function to just get all the values on a submission in an easy way? That's my next question. I guess I want more on what is called form group. So what is, I kind of just want the API on a form group itself. Here we go. Nested on a form group. You say I'm crazy. This is tell me why this is crazy. I'm curious. I'm happy to mince words on this. I'm just genuinely curious why you think that. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna kind of figure out what's going on. Okay, what does this do? Is this what I want? Okay, so if I do get raw value, because that's an option. Let's see what that does. because that would be cool if this does what I think it does. Oh, those guys over at the Angular team. I knew they would have what I was looking for. I knew it. That was very much what I was expecting. Oh man, they made this like the fact that they had exactly what I knew they would have just reminds me of how much I love them. The fact that it's called get raw value, I don't love. Finding that kind of sucked. But the fact that I was able to find it so quickly because I knew what I was doing, that was a good thing. Well, cool. So we can delete all of this because now we have fundamentally recreated it. And all we need to do is figure out how to do the send. But we'd place that in a service. And this is to do. And that's an easy to do. We know what we're doing. Oh, you say... No, yeah, I say assembly is crazy. I actually am curious why you think this is crazy. I'm gonna stand by that question. Like I think assembly is crazy in the sense that it is really hard to suss about every single thing that's going on because you have to think in registers and how data is moving in and out of registers. And I think that's just a really complicated mental model for me. Whereas this is, I know that I have a thing. It's got a pretty name. It's got an interface around it, and it makes it a lot easier for me. So like, I understand how A and B are formulated here. I'll be done in 20 minutes, so I'll just... Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, assembly is doable in 10 instructions, but like, and I'm saying this, again, recognizing I don't work in it every day. If I were to be working in assembly every day, I have a feeling I would have grown a lot of skills that would allow me to understand like what groupings and instructions do very quickly, and I would have learned all the tricks of the trade. I didn't learn all that in college. I just learned how to... the last time I touched assembly, what was I doing? I was writing instructions for a freaking robot to do a line, a very simple line follow routine. And that sucked because I just wasn't... I had no interest in that. And that was just me. Like, C is probably the lowest level language I will work in. And the reason I say that is I can at least follow and get the gist of what's going on. I think pointers and structs like start to get a little complex. Pointers more importantly. Then again, like somebody might say, well, object-oriented programming is absolutely complex. Why are you doing that? It's what I know. It's how I understand it. It's how I mean, my first programming language was Java. I learned everything in an object-oriented mindset. So like this just makes sense to me. Like I can make this work. What you're talking about, now my brain breaks. And it's nothing to do with the thing. It's just me. I mean, that is 100% a personal problem. Well, cool. So I'm pretty happy so far, by the way, because we have a working form, and I love that we have a working form, because that's just like, honestly, is great. Guess a big trip for us going down from higher level links to ASM is that there's no types, so number, pointer, or string are all just numbers. That's probably the biggest. I will agree with that, except that, I mean, I don't know. It makes sense to me that everything in assembly is a memory location and or a raw numeric value, and then we use instructions to translate that back into strings and characters and booleans and all that jazz. Like, I think that conceptually makes sense to me. Yeah, I think that all makes sense to me. I'm not going to argue with you on that. But yeah, I think the higher up you can go, I mean, also say this, like I spent a lot of time writing Python and Ruby, which there are no types, and JavaScript actually has no types. The only reason that I even have the concept of a type in here is because I'm working with TypeScript, and TypeScript has a concept of types because they added that as a layer. Like, underneath the hood, I mean, yes, there are there are types, there's numbers and strings and whatnot, and JavaScript knows how to interpret all that. But like that's something the interpreter figures out. Like I think honestly, I think JavaScript, Python, Ruby, if you're coming from the assembly C world, terrible languages for you. Don't touch them. I think they are. It's just like you go from like just thinking in numbers to not even caring if you're not dealing with memory, if you're dealing with memory, if you're dealing with number strings. Like you don't know what anything is, and it's hard to flow and follow. So I think maybe to that degree, I'm like, yeah, no, that's terrible. Don't do that to yourself. I don't want you to do that to yourself. That'd be a horrid experience for everybody, especially you. Um, I think with like TypeScript and hot debate in our larger JavaScript ecosystem community is just like the constant. Um, do we think? Sorry, I'm trying to think of the words here. Do we think types are actually beneficial or not? And I think a lot of people who have been anti-TypeScript enthusiasts are starting to move into a direction of, well, there's some value there, but maybe it's not TypeScript. And I think that's an interesting conversation in itself. It's like something has to document that. I hear great things about Rust. I will probably do a Rust stream sometime in the next couple months. I actually had a project when I first started with the company I'm at. We were working with the StackBlitz team, and had to actually move into some WebAssembly, which Rust makes WebAssembly super duper easy. But we were trying to port all of whatchamacallit. We were trying to port a bunch of different image compression libraries into WebAssembly for usage. I've never written Rust before. We considered it, but me and the other guy working on the project didn't have the skill set for it. So we decided that we weren't going to go that route. We actually found kind of a nice in between to solve the problem. There was a library called Squoosh. Google maintained it. They shut it down about 6 months ago. And what we did is we just took all of the API surface of those image compression libraries, which mapped one-to-one, or not one-to-one, but mapped in some way into the Squoosh library. And, we just wrapped it because that's what we knew. That's what made sense. And it worked for the use case that the client was wanting in that case. I think I worked with another team. I can't say who they are because then I couldn't talk about what we did, but they used Rust, but it was only to compile down to Lua. So I didn't actually use Rust. I used Lua, but that's another deeply different conversation. Well, this is cool so far. I don't know if we're going to make it all the way through what I was hoping to get through in the next 15 minutes. If I'm just being honest with myself. Yeah, exactly. Better to use what you know. I totally agree with you. Okay, I think the thing that I want to try and get done, if we can conceivably do it, is I want to maybe just get the bones of this homepage working. And then once we get the bones working, next time we can actually start talking about this suspense boundary and what the heck I think the actual plan would be to like replace React wholesale with it, because I think that would be just a cool kind of concept on its own. But I don't think I have the time tonight to pull that off. And I'm just being honest with myself on what I think I can and can't do in a reasonable amount of time. So let's see. If I do that, we got our homepage up and running in about 20 seconds. If I ever want to do a Rust stream, you would be happy to be a guest on here. Hey, love to have you. I got to figure out when and if I'm going to do that. I totally agree. It would be a super dope idea though. I got another guy. I don't know if you've seen him around on Twitch or on the interwebs, but his name's Matthew Pagan. Humblest guy you'll ever meet. Super curious human. I know he does a lot with Rust. Somebody else I would definitely bring on for something like that. Such a good guy though. You gotta love good people like that. Okay, so we got our homepage thing. Exactly. Fun times. That's what we're about here. It's about the fun times. Um, okay, so this is going to be our first kind of cool thing that I'm actually super excited about doing. Um, which is going to be our first defer block. Um, and what I'm going to put here for now, because I don't know, this is going to be the featured product collection. Because I actually don't have the other stuff that's inside, which something I need to figure out. And there's gonna, I think placeholder and loading have the same purpose in the instance of what I'm thinking about for this particular component. And I'm wondering if I put just a div in here, hello world. Just curious how that works. Okay, so it just flipped pretty quickly. And I'm okay with that because I wasn't going for anything super duper crazy here. But now I need to go actually build this product carousel that I've put a placeholder for, which also means I'm going to have to set up some API variables and some stuff. That I'm going to save for the next stream, because if I had to do that now, I think it would take me the rest of the time just to get something working. So I think what we're going to do instead is cheat, because we like to cheat. This @ sign right here, like the @defer @ sign. Okay, yeah. So these are this is a new feature in Angular 17. So I talked about it earlier in the stream, but back in the day of Angular 1, if you wanted to conditionally render a block of code, you would have written ngIf, and then you could have put the condition right here. In Angular 2 and higher, they changed it to be this. And this had a kind of gross downside. And I'm actually going to pull up the docs to show that gross downside. You had to like tag an if condition, and then if you needed a then or an else condition associated to it, you had to do this like templating thing. And they said, ooh, this isn't super great. We don't like this. Let's make this better. And so they just recently borrowed a syntax that I think this came from Svelte for the most part, but these are just directives, and this just lets the compiler know that like, hey, this has a special meaning. And so you could do like @defer, or like, let's say I wanted this to just be if instead. I could put like if true. Like I could put a condition like that, or alternatively, you can also use this to get a for loop and like iteratively generate things. So like here, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and just kind of go to their control flow example, but like you can do like a for block, right? And now I just want to render all of these paragraphs like that. Great way to render list of items. Alternatively, you could do, like I said, the if statement. If the thing is true, do this. Otherwise, do that. And it's the @ is strictly just compiler targeting syntax. I think that's cool. I think it's needed. And honestly, I liked this feature for what it was, but I love the new version of it because it just doesn't hurt my brain. The old one hurt my brain. Okay, I was doing something else though before you asked that question, and it was a very good question, so I'm glad you asked me. But I think what I want to do here is I'm gonna cheat and just get this printed out, because now I can use this in a service. So now what I think I can do is, if I'm right, I could do generate service products. Yeah, very similar to the dot. I don't know how one-to-one that would be. Yeah, I just don't know how one-to-one that would be. I'll just be honest with you. Not my cup of tea, to say that I know exactly what you're talking about. But I think that's right. I would say it's No, I can't say it's anything like in C because C doesn't have the concept. I don't know what I would compare it to. I'm sorry, that's not a very helpful response for you, but I don't know. Sorry, that wasn't a helpful answer. Um, okay, so we're just kind of cheating real quick and just getting all of this out of this element here because I just needed a quick way of doing it. But this is going to end up being a service that we use later. Um, oh, oh yeah. I would say it's are you familiar? If you're familiar with C++, I would say it's more similar to header files than it is the hash. If I'm going to be completely honest about it, I think that's how I would translate it. I'm also gonna just quickly see if anybody's responded to my tweet. They have not. I would have really loved that about now because that would have gotten me the answer that I really wanted to use right now, which is how to do a smart thing. But I don't have that. So, how do we do this? Okay, so we need a new component. Making that executive decision, and this is going to be our product carousel. Yeah, we're going to call it our product carousel. And our product carousel is going to use the carousel and the product card to render itself, and that'll be its own fun story for another day. But in here, what we can do is header files are a thing in regular C2. Oh, today I learned. Back when I did it, I don't think it was a thing, but that doesn't mean what I know is right. So today I learned. I'm gonna go with that. Today I learned. Okay, I think this was the. There's a inject from core. I think this is how you write this. This was the thing I need to look up again. Because again, I relearned most of Angular tonight. And now that I understand a lot of it, I gotta figure out how the rest of it works. Okay, so in here so I don't need the new, and I don't need the paren. I just pass in the service itself, and that injects it in. And then on my constructor here, what I can do is this dot products equals this dot product service get featured products, because that's what I'm going to do on this one. And then we can do a lot of cool stuff with this, but I don't have the types yet, and I'll have to do that soon. And this is probably mad because, yeah, I don't have types. It was a thing since oh, was it really? See header files. Huh. You're right. What am I confusing them with? Why did I think that was a C++ feature? Huh. Who knows? I don't know why I thought that was a thing. Well, we'll just call me a clown for once and move on. I'm okay being wrong. Let me be wrong. We're just learning what it means to be wrong. Okay, I have a feeling this is not the way Angular likes to do this, is putting it in this file, so I'm gonna have to ask an expert later. But I'm gonna do this for now because I don't have a better spot for it. So you have an ID, which is a string. You have handle, which is a string. And we're okay with that. And then this product carousel can come and take the product type and do that. And this could take type product from this thing. And all of a sudden everybody's happy again. Okay, so now we have our carousel. We've got a thing. If we come back to our lovely component here, we're going to grab this junk. We're going to go into the product carousel here. We're going to paste this junk. And we're going to rename everything that says class name to class. And then we're going to get rid of the carousel stuff for now because we don't know how to implement that in Angular yet. We're going to change all of this to before. So this is going to be product of products, track product ID. And then in here, we're just going to need to put, for now, we're just going to put a div, which is going to be the product ID, because we don't have anything better to deal with this yet. So assuming I just did this correctly and not incorrectly, this might be where we end the stream tonight, just because I'm getting a little hungry and it's getting close to that time. So that did a hello world, and we could fix this by doing, we don't need the router link in here. We learned that. We might need it later, but we don't need it now. And we want the carousel component, which is good. And then in here, my guess is we could do app product carousel, just like that. And boom, we got all our products. Now we actually have to finish fetching and rendering correctly, but I'm going to leave that as an exercise for next time. So this might just be a pickup point for the next stream. But this is cool. We're figuring out how to do all the cool things that Angular does. And it's kind of nice because it, like, we see it in action. Like, it's got that featured product collection piece, and like that's kind of cool. So now I could like put the like a skeleton loading card right here, and then like this renders a thing, but then this renders the skeleton loading version of that same thing. And I think this is just turning into a fun little like, how does this work in Angular, and not being upset about the end result, because this, I don't hate this. This was enjoyable. Well, I'm gonna end the stream here. Not because I don't enjoy your company, but because I'm hungry. It's a little late, and I said this was about when I was gonna end tonight. So that's gonna be my sign off. And Anthony, thanks for joining me. It was fun talking C and Rust and all that lovely assembly. Honestly, that assembly project was really cool. Thank you for sharing that with me. I enjoyed reading through it. Yes, food is the greatest motivator. I agree with that. But plan is every Thursday night we're gonna do this. I might reduce the time. I also might change how I'm streaming. I tried to stream to both Twitch and YouTube. Nobody actually showed up on YouTube. So I might try somewhere else, but Twitch seems to be the place to be. So yeah, I hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.